What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2JJK Chapter 36 Advertisement. It seems that there is no slightest interest in the same kind that Gojo Satoru talks about. But who would have thought that things are impermanent? Yuja has never imagined that such a name randomly mentioned by Gojo will bring him much change in the future. But this is all for later. Inside the supermarket, the family members of the deceased were crying, and Yaga Masamichi's expression became more gloomy. If he could arrive sooner, maybe these people would not die. But his heart knew that all this was impossible. Ryuichi was able to solve the superclass fast enough, and he almost eliminated the superclass without a chance to breathe, but human life is too fragile for the superclass. Even the power leaked unintentionally is enough to punish human beings. Even if he was there, he might not be able to do better than Ryuichi. It would be great if he could join the college. That kind of talent will definitely become stronger in the college. Only when the strength of the Jujutsu division continues to grow, can these cursed spirits be eliminated the fastest, and the tragic loss of life can be minimized. Yaga Masamichi murmured softly. Gojo Satoru, who walked to him, heard him and patted Masamichi on the shoulder. If you're talking about Zenin Ryuichi, Guy 1, you won't have a dream, he even refused me. You know him? Yaga Masamichi looked at Gojo Satoru in surprise. Of course, we are close friends. When Masamichi heard this, his eyes lit up, his mouth cracked and an ugly smile appeared. Advertisement, since you were friends, can you? No, I said it, he has already rejected me once. Old man, don't you listen to others. Before Masamichi finished speaking, Gojo Satoru interrupted him. Old man. You call me old man? On Yaga Masamichi's forehead, the veins violently, his big hands clenched, and he waved an iron fist, wanting to teach this little devil who doesn't respect his teacher. Gojo, who has no lower limit technique, would naturally not be hit, and made a grimace, watching Yaga Masamichi's fist hard to get close in front of him. Suddenly, he turned his eyes and looked at the tall building in the distance of the supermarket. The smiley eyes instantly became cold. The corners of his mouth slid a few times, but there was no sound from Chu. I got a deep look at the building. The mouth shape clearly said two words. Missions. Following this look of Gojo. On the opposite building, the man who had been dormant suddenly got up and left without even turning his head. The curse power of his whole body exploded rapidly, for fear that Gojo would appear in front of him in the next second. He is like an embarrassed old dog, walking through the streets and alleys, not daring to appear on the street. If the ghost in the night is normal, after some time, he finally stopped. Came to a pub that was extremely hidden. Why are you so embarrassed? The lady proprietor of the tavern is a very hot blonde woman. She lay on the wine table, setting her body more exquisitely, and the evil is almost gushing out. Advertisement. The man took off his hood and revealed his ugly face. A scar pierced half of his face, making his ugly and dark face even more hideous and terrifying. He leaned against the door of the tavern, pressed close to the wall, and slid down on the floor. The wall was scratched by his sweat, and his whole body was wrapped in cold sweat. Panting like a drowning man. What's the matter with you? Seeing this, the lady boss hurried forward, helped the man up and sat on the high chair. The man took a deep breath. The whole body trembled uncontrollably. I saw Gojo Satoru, and finally I knew why I must get rid of that guy. The man seemed to be caught in a nightmare. Gojo Satoru's pair of heavenly pupils without any emotions, like the might of heaven, were deeply imprinted in his mind, and they could not dissipate for a long time. It's too dangerous. No one can show up next to Gojo Satoru without instructions from an adult. Don't you want to live? The lady boss yelled. Unexpectedly the man was so courageous. Although it's dangerous, I seem to have found an existence that can fight Gojo. The man clenched his fists, resisting the fear in his heart, and his teeth kept shaking. Who is it? Even the adults said that we must avoid the edge. Who can fight that monster? The lady boss looked at the man in disbelief. A touch of color appeared on the man's face. What about giving his life for the great cause of himself and others? Only monsters are fighting against monsters. Jujutsu can infinitely magnify sight and hearing. Within a radius of 10,000 meters, everything can be perceived. I saw a superb existence, whose name is Zenin Ryuichi. He is another monster. Chapter 37 Advertisement. Impossible. Don't forget, adult Jujutsu can glimpse the long-term future. Gojo Satoru's pervert is invincible. It is an absolutely irresistible monster. Only an adult can wake up the shadows that existed thousands of years ago. Appears to rival the existence. Together with Yuja, who is a special grade, he will be left behind by Gojo Satoru. No one can resist such a monster in this era. The lady boss couldn't believe what the man said. The adult Jujutsu took them to see the endless future together, and Gojo's god-like figure was deeply planted in her heart. Why do you think I dared to spy on Gojo Satoru? Of course it was the instruction of the adult. Zenin Ryuichi is a monster. A monster that did not exist in the past and the future. A demon that can resist Gojo. The man's voice was almost crazy, like a crazy believer. His face was sickly red, and his whole body trembled involuntarily. There was a spark of enthusiasm in his eyes. Only believe in adults, is the root of all suffering. Zenin Ryuichi is our chance to kill Gojo Satoru. The lady boss was completely speechless by the man's shock, and stood there blankly. No matter how the man whispered, she didn't respond. In her red eyes, a black nether appeared invisible, and it disappeared in a flash. Yeah, for adults, the man felt the strength of Ryuichi firsthand with his own jujutsu, and also heard Gojo's affirmation of Ryuichi through jujutsu. But he left the most important one. That is, jujutsu resists. He has to perceive that jujutsu can magnify his senses countless times, which is a magical skill for obtaining information. However, Gojo Satoru has a natural command of one of the strongest jujutsus, no lower limits. Whenever jujutsu reaches Gojo, he will be aware of it. And no lower limit technique can instantly plant several infinity in space. Advertisement in other words. Everything a man hears is what Gojo wants the man to hear first. So the man heard that Gojo personally admitted Zenin Ryuichi's strength, but he didn't hear the friendship between the two. He heard that Gojo Satoru told Shayuja to be careful of Ryuichi, and he thought to himself that there was an enmity between Ryuichi and Gojo Satoru. I'm going to inform the adults now, no matter what the cost is to win Zenin Ryuichi, as long as the cerebral worm is planted in, we can immediately start our hearts. The man stood up excitedly. No, I'm here, an old male voice slowly sounded. Sudden. The door of the tavern behind him slammed open. A burst of black mist quickly emerged, enveloping the entire tavern layer by layer, and the curse power was like flowing water, and strangely flowing slowly throughout the tavern. Woo! There were bursts of baby crying all around, and black crows circled outside the door of the tavern. The originally cloudless sky was covered by endless ink. Above the dome, it seemed to be covered by a huge curtain. A man covered in black robe appeared at the entrance of the tavern. On his shoulder stood a small black crow. D, you did a good job this time. I already know where Zenin Ryuichi is. You will be responsible for the next actions, quack. The vicissitudes of life sounded strangely from the crow's mouth. Advertisement. The man called D knelt on the ground with the proprietress, looking at the black-robed man who appeared in front of him frantically. Yes, your lord, I will never let down your trust. Well, very good, very good. The crow combed his feathers. A black curse appeared in the bean-sized bird's eyes, and quickly rushed towards the truth. The speed of the curse was extremely fast, and in a blink of an eye, it was submerged in D's body. Ah! D let out a heart-piercing scream, and the muscles all over his body trembled frantically, swelling in an extremely fast posture, and then shriveled. Like a duck being flooded with water, this process is like hell punishment, causing D's constant bills to scream. The lady boss on the side listened to D's screams. Not only was there no fear at all, but a bit of jealousy appeared on his face. Ah! The man's scream gradually weakened, and finally he let out a sound that was almost moaning. The whole body was covered with black power like ink, and the spirit of the whole person was almost as different as before. Thank you, sir. Dai was delighted to feel his own changes. He can feel that his current strength has doubled, whether it is physical or curse power, it has been greatly increased. From the third level Jujutsu division has reached the second level of apex strength. For the future of mankind, D don't let me down, quack. The crow screamed leisurely. Before the sound fell, the black mist gathered up, swallowing all the figures of D and the boss. I will help you reach the place where Ryuichi is, and then I will rely on you, my child. The endless black mist faded like a tide. Chapter 38. Advertisement. In the tavern, the figure of the proprietress and D disappeared out of thin air, and the black-robed man was quietly immersed in the black mist, for an unknown period of time. The black robe fluttered slowly. A voice that was far different from the vicissitudes of life sounded. The voice was like the babble of the devil in hell, and it uttered like curse, which made people shudder and noisy. Humans are really stupid. There was a bit of ridicule in that voice and a bit of inexplicable sadness. Click. The door of the tavern was pushed open again. AB*********** D with red hair on his head walked into the tavern with his head tilted. He raised his head and looked at the man hiding in the black robe. Hey! Give Lao Su a glass of wine. The D's mouth cracked and sat at the side table. The black-robed man turned his head and faced the gangster. The crow on the shoulder quackled strangely, as if playing some kind of tragic song. You are deaf. Pour wine to Lao Su. Seeing that the man in black actually ignored him, he became furious and drew out a knife and stood up directly. Looking at the black-robed man with a fierce face. Base. Oh. What is this? The little D screamed suddenly, only to see a black tentacles coming out from under the black robe. Rolling the little D up. The powerful force gives the gangsters almost no chance to resist. It was rolled up layer by layer, and the tentacles once again tightly blocked the little D's mouth. One. Advertisement. A little bit dragged the D into the black robe. The black robe showed a corner, and there seemed to be a huge mouth in it, greedily waiting for his food. Click. The door was closed out of thin air by some force. The tavern was plunged into darkness. Ha ha, ha ha. The sound of chewing slowly sounded, as if something was tasting the food. Osaka, Zenin branched out. The old man looked at Yingsen, who was half kneeling in front of him. Unbelievably, his eyes burst open, blue veins rose, and the teacup he was holding was trembling slightly. You say it again. The old man seemed to be unable to believe what he had just heard, and tremblingly stood up from the tatami, and ordered Ying Yi to repeat it. Upon seeing this, Ying Yi hurriedly bowed again and said, "The abandoned son of the Zenin family, Zenin Ryuichi, appeared in Lianyuan supermarket at 10:02 a.m. yesterday, and the super cursed spirit was born at 10:30 a.m. at 10:45. Yingsen paused, and the two hands were tightly clasped into a ball, and the joints were white, without even noticing it, and continued. Except for the special grade at 10:45. According to our news, no one assisted Zenin Ryuichi in the whole process, which means that Zenin Ryuichi's strength is at least a first-level jujutsu teacher. Keigaichi didn't expect Zenin Ryuichi's strength to be so tyrannical. He had already made a plan in his heart and could only continue it quietly. First level jujutsu teacher. The old man narrowed his eyes slightly, and he kept muttering in his mouth. He slowly sat on the tatami again, with a hint of glamour at the corners of his mouth. Okay. As expected to have the blood of my Zenin family. If I remember correctly, Zenin Ryuichi is only 16 years old this year, and he awakens jujutsu the day after tomorrow. He has an extremely powerful physical power and has the ultimate mastery of curse power. Advertisement on the desktop in front of the old man. A pile of thick information suddenly appeared, and Yaga Masamichi and Ieri Shoko's discussion of Ryuichi was recorded verbatim in it. Including Ieri Shoko's retelling of Ryuichi's battles are recorded one by one. Even Jujutsu, the only Jujutsu force in the entire Fuso, like Jujutsu High School, can hardly resist the intelligence system of the Zenin family. This is the enduring power of the family that has been passed down for thousands of years. Refused to join Jujutsu Academy. What is worth joining in such a place of incompetence? The old man's mouth brought a trace of disdain, and the arrogance in his tone could not be concealed anyway. In his eyes, they are nothing more than the toys of those old antiques in Jujutsu World. It's okay to play around, but the real arrogance of Zenin's family is not something they can attract. At this moment, he seems to have forgotten that the arrogant man in his mouth was originally expelled from the house by the so-called Zenin orthodoxy in the name of experience. Keigaichi, send this information to Tokyo and tell Zenin Naobi to let Ryuichi return to Zenin's house by all means. Before the next Ozen competition, I will try my best to train Ryuichi, the junior of Gojo's family. I thought I was going to crush this generation. I didn't expect the heaven to take shelter. My Zenin's house will never die. The old man took a sip of the tea in his hand in excitement. There was no trace of elegance, but like a warrior about to go into battle, revealing a few iron-blooded feelings. This feeling appeared to a thin old man who was extremely abrupt but unusually harmonious. Yes, elder. The subordinates will go to Tokyo immediately and personally report the matter to the patriarch. Well, it's okay to go there in person. I don't think it's prudent enough for mobile phones or something. The old man nodded and agreed to Keigaichi's proposal. Subordinates set off now. Ying Yi clasped his fists and bowed out of the room. He buried his head very low, for fear that the old man would see the crazy killing intent in his eyes. Zenin Ryuichi, do you really think you can climb to the sky in one step? Don't dream too much? A plan emerged in Keigaichi's heart, and the hatred of the brother's death and the jealousy of Ryuichi exploded in his heart. Chapter 39 Advertisement. But Ying Yi also did not notice that the old man sitting on the tatami was holding tea. His eyes were like wild beasts, staring closely at his back, as if calling out at any time, tearing the prey to pieces. However, until Ying Yi completely disappeared from the room, the old man did not take action. Just sitting quietly on the tatami, her eyes squinted, the tea floating on the table, and the room is beautiful. Vaguely, thousands of mountains and birds rang. Click. The old man put the teacup heavily on the table. There was a muffled noise. Muttered to himself. All right, yes, a good knife always needs a sharpening stone. Before the conference begins, get stronger, Zenin Ryuichi. You have noble blood on your body, don't let me down. Fuso, Tokyo. As the center of the entire Fuso country. Almost half of the population has gathered, making this small city even more crowded. In this golden city, some people tried their best and could not get even a square foot of land in their entire life. Under such high pressure, countless negative emotions were naturally born. And the birth of cursed spirit broke ground from these countless negative emotions. Advertisement: the denser the population, the higher and stronger the quality of cursed spirit. Throughout Tokyo, there are no fewer than 30 registered special class cursed spirits, and countless unregistered special class spirits. It can be said that the people of Tokyo dance on the tip of a knife every day, and if there is only one super violent, then these poor guys will join hands and become the food of the cursed spirit. For cursed spirit, ordinary humans are simply too fragile and small, and they can make them worse than dead without exerting force. If those guys who claim to be jujutsu teachers, they would have destroyed everything and become the real masters of the world. But, because of the existence of those guys, the cursed spirit had to hide in the darkness and linger, just because the three mountains-like names in the center of Tokyo are deeply pressed on all the cursed spirits. No. Even the curse masters, who do no evil, shivered under the three names, and did not dare to touch their edge. Originally, there was a delicate balance between cursed spirit, curse and jujutsu, which lasted for hundreds of years. But with the birth of the monster of the Gojo family among the three families of Yu, everything has been changed. When he was born, the balance of the world was broken by him alone. The curse masters are dormant in the darkness, and the advanced cursed spirit with wisdom is hidden in a deeper gloom. And at the moment, this man, who can affect the entire jujutsu world with every move, stands under a towering old tree. Around, countless wind chimes rang sweetly. The old trees are surrounded by slender red threads. The red threads are like blood, with a bit of weirdness and a bit of peace. This sense of contradiction continues to surround the old tree. From nothing to nothing, and from nothing to nothing. Sometimes the red line appears, sometimes dissipates. Advertisement with the sound of the wind chimes, it kept changing in front of Gojo Satoru's eyes. Gojo Satoru sat on the ground, eating the latest version of the cake. Looking at everything in front of me with interest. He didn't wear sunglasses, the pair of eyes on the sky, like a pool of dark blue lakes, constantly reflecting everything on the ancient trees. In his eyes, it seemed like countless stars flowed. What did you see? The old voice remembered from the ancient tree. A short old man sat cross-legged on the root of the ancient tree. The wrinkles on his face were like annual rings, entwined one upon another, and there were countless mottled age spots on his face. He opened his eyes, but in his eyes, there were no eyes, only a deep void. Obviously both eyes were gouged out, but for some reason, Gojo still felt that countless pairs of eyes were watching his every move. This weird feeling came from the old man who seemed to be close to decay. I saw it, infinite. Gojo Satoru casually threw the pastry into his mouth, with his hands supporting the ground behind him, with a smile at the corners of his mouth, looking at the ancient wood in front of him, as if watching an extraordinary performance. In the eyes of heaven, everything was seen by him, so thorough. Is the person who sees through everything the strongest person and the most boring person? Hearing Gojo Satoru's answer, the old man nodded in satisfaction, with a smile on his face. Faced with the best genius of the Gojo family for thousands of years, and mastering the six-eyed Gojo Satoru who has only appeared twice in the entire generations, even if he is picky as an old man, he can't help but feel a bit proud. Very well, Wu, you are the next person in charge of the family. This warship that has been sailing in the torrent of history for thousands of years, you will be the only helm. Your talent and strength will bring you the Gojo's family will move towards glory. Grandpa, it's good to be happy. To be honest, I have no interest in running the family. Gojo Satoru shrugged his shoulders helplessly. If other children talked to the old man like this, the family law would have served him a long time ago. But in the face of Gojo Satoru, the old man ignored his frivolous attitude and continued to speak for himself. Xiao Wu, the Kamo family has proposed to reopen the prince test. The Zenin family has agreed to it. I want to know your attitude, because if you want to do it, this competition will be a well-deserved crush. Chapter 40 Advertisement. For this kind of thing, Grandpa, you can be the master, I don't care, cursed spirit or jujutsu teacher, I am the strongest. Gojo Satoru doesn't care who his opponent is or how strong he is. He is invincible. No one has ever doubted this. The old man seemed more satisfied when he heard Gojo's words. The wrinkled old face bloomed like chrysanthemums in full bloom, smiling at Gojo Satoru. The prince test is the eternal pain in the hearts of Gojo and Zenin. The patriarch of the Gojo family of that generation, Tianzong talent, was the same as Gojo Satoru. He not only possessed 6 eyes, but also mastered the unlimited technique. The Gojo family should have burst out of unparalleled brilliance in the hands of the patriarch of that generation. But what I did not expect is, the Zenin patriarch of that generation was also a first-class genius. The battle lasted for 3 full days, and no one could repeat the process of the battle, because those who had witnessed the battle had already died in the aftermath of the battle. Until everyone reappears on the battlefield. I only saw the 2 men who looked like demon gods. Even if they died in battle, they still refused to fall, one holding the flag of the Zenin family, and the other wearing the clan emblem of the Gojo family. Standing in the center of the ring. Even if the body died away, the curse power of that body still lingered on the entire battlefield. The original big arena, known as the most prosperous arena in Tokyo, the arena that cost countless craftsmen's hard work, completely collapsed under the battle that was almost a natural disaster. The wall made of black stainless steel, which is known as indestructible, was affected by the battle between the two, leaving only one ruined wall. At the center of the arena, the meteorite that fell from the sky was shattered like a baby's toy. Except for the arena in the center of the battlefield, whether it is the auditorium or Optimus Prime, it is completely destroyed by the unimaginable force. And the reason why the ring can exist to the end. Because of advertisement. One of the most important rules of the imperial contest is that those who fall out of the ring lose. These 2 proud and godlike men never stepped out of the ring until they died in battle. Both the Zenin family and the Gojo family were almost withered due to this sudden change. If it weren't for the fact that the trump cards were still hidden in the family, they would have been eliminated in this historical torrent. It was also after that, Gojos and Zenins. The times are enemies. Open and dark fights continue, and there are countless lives and deaths. If it weren't for Kamo's reconciliation, the Gojo family and Zenin family have been at full-scale war long ago. Although now in the present society, it is different from the former warring states period, but the battle between the two big families has never stopped. Now the Kamo family, which has always been reconciled from the middle, actually proposed to rehost a prince test. Now that the Zenin family has agreed, it is naturally impossible for the Gojo family to quit. What's more, the current Gojo home is in full swing. Gojo Satoru's growth rate is almost far faster than the generation of patriarchs with 6 eyes. Such strength is almost invincible among the younger generation. Xiao Wu, among the younger generation, no one should be your opponent. The old man stroked his long beard and his face was kind. But Gojo narrowed his eyes after saying this, and a lazy figure suddenly appeared in front of him, with a smile unconsciously at the corner of his mouth. Young generation. It doesn't matter which generation is, it will be a boring contest without even thinking about it. But if that guy also comes to participate, it might become more interesting. Advertisement. Hearing this, the elder, who is very old and fine, frowned slightly. You found an opponent that is enough to fight you? Haha, of course, standing alone on the top of the mountain should be so boring, it's fun. Gojo Satoru closed his eyes and looked at the infinite sky in a hug pose. A word came up inexplicably in his heart, heaven and earth. I am the only one. The old man felt the spirited Gojo and didn't say much, but after Jiu Mu, a few figures quietly left, like a ghost. Someone in a family is the face and the other is the inside. When you do what you have to want to do with face, Lizzie will always do it, and quietly. Passing down from the inside and out, is the way of life that the Gojo family can pass down to this day. Even with such a peerless genius as Gojo Satoru, it must not be taken lightly. The shame of the past is still kept in mind by the old man, and he must not allow Gojo Satoru to have any more accidents. Even if you give everything for it, Kamo's house, what are you hiding behind that hypocritical skin? Is the foxtail finally showing up? Zenin and Gojo, the biggest beneficiaries of both losses, are they really that great? The old man stroked the towering ancient tree next to him, as soft as he was caressing his own child. The wind is still blowing in the atrium, and the wind chimes are still ringing crisply. Gojo Satoru looked at the sky thoughtfully, everything is so small in the eyes of the sky. Chapter 41 Advertisement. But in a corner he couldn't see. A pair of blue eyes was watching his figure silently. There seemed to be a reverse galaxy in those eyes, endlessly bright. Jujutsu High School, 4th grade office building. Yaga Masamichi stood respectfully at the door of an office. The tall body stands straight, and he can open the wooden door with just pushing his hand, but like a moat, he doesn't dare to step beyond the thunder pond. Crunch. The dilapidated wooden door made a soft noise, and because it was too dilapidated, there was an overwhelming scream between the wooden door and the mezzanine. Masamichi, it seems that you haven't been here for a long time since you became the 1st grade class teacher. In the office, a woman's voice slowly sounded, the voice was calm, and Gujing did not wave. It seems to be able to brush all the dust in the dead. Hearing this voice, Yaga Masamichi, who was originally traveling back and forth between Osaka and Tokyo, seemed to have gone through some baptism. The bloodshot whites of his eyes also quickly restored the old kingming. It's been too busy recently, I just made time to visit the principal. Masamichi scratched his head a little embarrassedly. He used to be with the principal every day, but since he became the 1st grade class teacher, his affairs have become more and more, and he has not visited this respectable person for a long time. Women. Advertisement. The principal of Tokyo Higher Jujutsu Professional College is also his own teacher. Haha, let's talk about it. What's the matter? You are very busy now, and you can't go to the 3 treasures hall. My old lady can't attract your attention. The headmaster's voice was like a complaining old man. He was spitting out his own child, and he didn't care about himself as soon as his wings were hard. Yaga Masamichi's old face blushed. Such an ironclad man was so stunned by a word that he couldn't even let out a fart. He stomped awkwardly outside the office. He, who was always bad at words, really didn't know what to say. After all, since this period of time, I have indeed never visited my teacher once. Moreover, the most important thing is that this time he came, there are really a few things that need to be answered by the principal. It can be said that the old principal's words are all in, and Yaga Masamichi feels like a wolf-hearted guy. Suddenly fell into a depression, a dark cloud seemed to appear above his head, entrenched on his head. He, you guy is still so serious. Well, I also came from your time. Everything is difficult at the beginning. Now the undercurrent of Tokyo is surging. You really should work harder. The old principal smiled in a momentary voice. Dispelled the dark clouds on Masamichi's head. Her voice seemed to have a power to soothe people's hearts. If you have anything, just say it directly. Masamichi pushed up a bit, and said with a light cough as the sunglasses were falling. Teacher, in a supermarket in Osaka, a super curse fetus was born. It took no more than 10 minutes from the gathering and forming to the breaking of the curse fetus. Oh, Masamichi's words caught the old principal's attention, and the old principal smashed his mouth with interest. Advertisement. In the supermarket, there is a surging flow of people, and there are indeed a lot of negative emotions, but there is only one possibility to be able to give birth to a superclass cursed spirit at such a rapid speed. That curse swallowed the special grade cursed object and was able to instantly create the special grade cursed object. This era has not yet spawned, So it can only be the cursed object left over from the ancient times. You defeated him? That kind of cursed spirit is very powerful, strong. Special cursed objects must be preserved well. None of the cursed objects passed down at that time are simple. There may be some terrible curse hidden in them. The old headmaster's voice was a bit proud. After all, Yaga Masamichi was his proud protege, and it was not surprising that he could beat the superclass. No, teacher, it was a 16-year-old boy who defeated him, and cursed object was gone when I arrived. Apart from the little monster in Gojo's family, is there such a genius? What a great world. The old man's voice became a little sigh. After several years of staying behind closed doors, I didn't expect the world to change so fast. Although she could destroy the super cursed spirit, at the age of 16, she seemed to be not even a third-level jujutsu teacher. As for the so-called cursed object, the old principal didn't mention a word. Whoever controls it, this is her rule, and it is also the rule of Jujutsu College. So no matter how powerful the cursed object is, it has nothing to do with her. You didn't even enroll him in the academy because of your personality. Teacher, I was rejected. Ha ha ha, normally, geniuses and monsters are both problematic teenagers, don't force this kind of thing. The old principal, who has gone through countless years, has seen countless monsters, and naturally knows that each of these monsters has its own unique path, and no one can interfere. But, teacher, this child was evicted from the Zenin's house 2 years ago. You understand the rules of the Zenin's house. When this child left the Zenin's house, there was no curse power in his body, but now the curse power in his body is equal to Jujutsu or extremely powerful. Jujutsu is the power engraved in the blood. There has never been such a situation where Jujutsu was born the day after tomorrow. Chapter 42. Advertisement. Masamichi's voice fell. The entire office building suddenly became extremely quiet. Being quiet allows Masamichi to almost hear his breathing, and the noise outside the window seems to be cut off by some kind of power. Something seems to isolate this space from the outside world. No sound can be transmitted into this realm. Yaga Masamichi tried to make a sound, but even if he could feel his vocal cords trembling crazily, he couldn't make any sound. After a long time, in the room, a deep sigh came. Hey, I didn't expect that old guy's predictions actually came true. The old principal's voice sounded slowly. Next moment, the entire world that had been pressed to silence the entire world instantly returned to normal. Domain. Yaga Masamichi had only one thought left in his mind. At the moment, the old principal activated the field for a second. Although it was only 1 second, it repeated countless seconds in his mind. Teacher, what's wrong with you? The domain consumes a lot of mantra power. At the age of the teacher, the body's functions have long been aging, and the mantra power that can be stored is increasingly scarce. The inexplicable development field, this kind of extremely depleting mantra power, is a great burden to the teacher. Advertisement. But the teacher ignored Masamichi's words. For the first time, there was a bit of sternness in the voice. Masamichi, don't participate in everything about that boy, don't ask anything else. Masamichi wanted to say something, but when he heard the teacher's tone, he didn't leave himself the slightest leeway. As long as he nodded, motioned to himself to be clear. The teacher's voice only relaxed a little, and he continued. There are some things that are not your turn to take care of. By the way, 3 months later, big 3 sorcerer families will once again start the Prince test. At that time, all the Jujutsu divisions will come to participate. The venue of the game will be in Tokyo. You are responsible for the matter, and there must be no mistakes. Prince test. Yaga Masamichi furrowed his brows, his eyes condensed slightly, and finally nodded heavily. Leave it to me, teacher. Very well, the brat has finally grown up to become a great jujutsu teacher. The old man's voice gradually became illusory, and finally calmed down. Yaga Masamichi bowed his fists, then slowly left. The Imperial Contest, a grand gathering all jujutsu family members, has obviously stopped for hundreds of years. Why should it be reopened? What is the point of wasting life on this kind of thing? After Yaga Masamichi became a famous sect, he naturally knew how many outstanding jujutsu masters have fallen on the ring for the so-called honor. Is it a blessing or a curse to restart the Imperial Contest again? Everything is not yet known, but this unprovoked change made him a bit tricky for a while. I hope nothing will happen. Advertisement. Hey, I said you're too much. With just such a small amount of money, you are going to beg for food. The sound of anger echoed in a villa by the sea, disturbing the calm sea, and there were little ripples. Fujiisher looked at the sleepy Ryuichi on the sofa with an unhappy expression, and the steel in his hand made a sharp clashing sound like a mockery. Don't be so loud. As I said before, when I am an employee, the salary depends on the boss. Ryuichi waved his hand weakly, beckoning him not to get excited. But Sheer saw Ryuichi's appearance, and was even more angry. Shouted now. Who is I? Zenin Sheer. The strongest bounty hunter. Is it too much for you to give me 3 coins in a month? I don't say anything anymore. I can't get to the 3rd and 4th levels every day. The little guy on the countertop, don't you think it's a bit overkill? Sheer's forehead was violently blue, his fists clenched, and he protested loudly. Since being defeated by Ryuichi, Sheer has obeyed the promise and became an employee of Ryuichi Wanshia. But what I didn't expect was, in this place where the house of all things is located, where birds don't shit, the spiritual events that come to the door every day are cursed spirits who cannot get up to the table. He can solve it with a casual wave. And what is his worth? The king of dignified bounty, the strongest body, should have lived a life of drunken money, but now it is good, 1 month's salary, he can't even afford a box of cigarettes. Oh, when we finish dealing with things here and go to Tokyo, there will be more business and peace of mind. Ryuichi comforted this, but he avoided the issue of salary. Hearing this, Shi-er dropped the coin on the table, and the powerful force directly set the coin on it. One turned and sat directly on the sofa, took a sip of the beer on the table and said, I'm still driving to Tokyo. Your house of everything is a 3-no company that no one recognizes. Those old guys won't let you go. Whether it's Jujutsu Academy or Jujutsu Association, they won't allow anyone to use cursed spirit. Started a company. Chapter 43. Advertisement, that's it, such a powerful official, I'm so scared. Ryuichi was scared, but she was still indifferent and lazy, apparently not taking Cher's words to heart. You guy, Shire didn't continue to say anything. After getting along for this period of time, Shire found that Ryuichi, a lazy-looking fellow, was carrying pride that he didn't know where to bring. So he was able to lightly reject the Zenin's apology, and he was able to reject the invitation of Jujutsu Academy without hesitation. This kind of arrogance in the bones will not be revealed. Only when you really come into contact with Ryuichi will you know how powerful and terrifying this man who doesn't seem to care about is. He doesn't care about anything, because he knows that as long as he wants, everything he wants will be firmly grasped in his palm. He cannot, but, you can't touch it until he is tired of playing and throwing it away. Just like the house of everything he opened, now he doesn't need this dispensable house of everything to gather wealth. But it still hasn't closed, and even recruited employees decently, all because of his willingness. Huh, whatever you want, I'm going to have fun. She gave a glance at Ryuichi and got up from the sofa. With a slight force under his feet, his body instantly turned into a flowing shadow and disappeared into the room. Only the curtains floated gently, as if a breeze was blowing. Does neither of them walk the door? Ryuichi also sat up from the sofa and stretched his arms. This time he seemed to have been asleep for a long time. Actually, it's really not Ryuichi's snooze. Instead, he chose to run 6 Immortal Thief Treasury with all his strength in order to digest the curse of the 8 different big snake in his body. At this moment, the huge curse in his body was almost completely absorbed by him. System, fall out of the panel, advertisement Ryuichi said silently in his heart. Divine Armament 100 refinements. Satisfactory, current progress is 100%. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury. Dacheng. The current progress is 70%. Feng Hu Chi Men. Unlocked Dispatch of Detained Spirits. Unlocked. Full Hand. Not unlocked Tong Tian Talisman. Unlocked. Deluo Cave Temple. Unlocked Origin of Qi. Unlocked. Seeing the skyrocketing progress bar, Ryuichi nodded in satisfaction, swallowing the improvement brought by an 8 different snake, almost catching up with the 1-year progress. If this continues, it won't be long before he estimates that he will be able to change 6. The progress bar of Immortal Thief Treasury is full. Start the next stunt directly. Sudden. A sharp glow flashed through Ryuichi's white eyes, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. There was also a glimmer of light on the divine machine on his chest. Long time no see. Ryuichi looked at the door. His tone of voice was as kind as he was facing an old friend who hadn't seen him for a long time, but the playfulness and jokes that kept flashing in his eyes made people feel chilly all over. Bang. Zenin Ryuichi. Go to hell. The door suddenly exploded, and black skulls emerged like a tide, seeming to engulf Ryuichi in front of them. As soon as that power appeared, it was as if it had rendered everything in the space black, and the powerful curse power carried bursts of corrosive power, filled the air in the house. Advertisement, I'm so excited when my old friends meet. Ryuichi sat up straight and looked at what was happening in front of him with a smile. The expression on his face was relaxed and comfortable, as if he had no sense of the powerful curse power in front of him. Haha, yes, old friend, I really am, okay, I think, you. The dark 9 ghosts walked into the room step by step, and the curse powers all over his body rolled frantically, as if the souls were surging on him one by one. Looking at Ryuichi's eyes, there is endless resentment, and his hands are tightly clasped. With a grinning face. Cut. Don't be so stingy, didn't you just eat a little snake? Hole. Hearing Ryuichi's teasing, Kuji finally couldn't bear the anger in his heart, and showed his fangs like a fierce hungry wolf. Furiously rushing towards Ryuichi, the endless skeleton curse power, like a huge wave, followed closely behind Kuki, intending to drown Ryuichi directly in this endless resentment. Face the 9 ghosts who were like crazy. A trace of joking flashed across Ryuichi's face, and a bit of sarcasm in the corner of his mouth. Base. A curse power flashed across his body quickly, and the whole person instantly disappeared into the room. This speed. There was something bad in Kuki's heart, and the whole room was enveloped by his own jujutsu. Logically speaking, everything in the room could not escape his perception. But now, he really couldn't detect Ryuichi's breath at all. He couldn't help appearing a little flustered, his whole body's curse power was boiling, and it condensed into an armor-like object on his body. Watching the surroundings vigilantly, beware of the disappearing Ryuichi. Suddenly, a voice that made him stand upright came to his ears, which sounded like a demon's babbling, which made his whole body tremble. Are you looking for me? Chapter 44 Advertisement? The curse power of Kuki's whole body fluctuated violently at the moment Ryuichi appeared. Obviously, this situation reminded him of the scene where 1/9 of his soul was swallowed by the harmless young man behind him. While panicking, his whole body surged, and his toes suddenly hit the ground. A flash turned into an afterimage. He quickly moved away from Ryuichi's side. His eyes condensed slightly, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Just facing Ryuichi, he already felt a great deal of pressure. Damn it! I thought he was a second-level jujutsu at most, but now it seems that this guy is even better than me. The thought of Ryuichi's weird devouring ability just to restrain his own jujutsu, Kuki felt even more palpitated. Quite regretful, since I came here so recklessly. Ryuichi, what did you do to the pheasant sword? The 9 Ghosts' eyes slid around a few times. I plan to hold Ryuichi and wait for the fox face to come together and do it together. Otherwise, it is difficult to defeat this guy only by relying on physical skills. When Jujutsu dare not release it, it is almost a situation of being slaughtered. If it hadn't been dazzled by the anger, the 9 Ghosts would not lose their minds and let themselves fall into such an embarrassing situation. After Baki Orochi was broken in front of everyone, he and Hu Mian paid a lot of money, almost completely destroying the members of Yuan Lu Wei. But the plan that the two have worked hard for many years is indeed impossible to realize. The smashed Yuan Lu Wei had no value anymore. This strong anger turned into endless curse power, dragging the body of the 9 Ghosts. After solving the matter in Osaka, without waiting for instructions from the face of the fox, he left only a text message and rushed to Shanzawa alone. Finally ended up in such an awkward situation. Casting Jujutsu will be consumed by Ryuichi. Do not use Jujutsu, just look at the speed that Ryuichi showed just now. I'm afraid I will be beaten into human-shaped sandbags. For the first time, the 9 Ghosts regretted their recklessness. Advertisement. Ryuichi on the side is like a cat catching a mouse. As if looking at some fun toy, he looked at the 9 Ghosts with great interest. Said with a little bit of playfulness. Didn't you say it? That little snake tastes good. You swallowed Master Yaki. Jugi's eyes widened suddenly, his eyes were slightly loose, and the corners of his mouth split unconsciously. He knew that Ryuichi's ability could swallow the spell, but he never thought that Ryuichi could even swallow the nightmare from ancient times. Don't get excited, your trick of delaying time is really clumsy, but I'm in good spirits today, and I can wait for your partner. While speaking, Ryuichi glanced out the window casually. I only saw that the black curtains seemed to fall from the sky. Completely cut off his villa from the outside space. Born from darkness, darker than black. Foul residuals, there are only a few. A cold voice suddenly sounded in the room. With the falling of the sound, the dark curtain completely fell, completely enclosing the entire villa. Account. Really come prepared. Ryuichi looked at the changes around him and couldn't help pursing his lips. Generally speaking, the tents that were only laid when the high-level cursed spirit were removed, were actually used on one's own body, which felt a bit subtle. Haha, compared to the gift you gave us, this battle is not great, I even think it's a bit smaller. Hula. A white magic flame suddenly burned around the 9 Ghosts. The flame appeared out of thin air, with a bit of hellish chill, slowly condensing into a human form. The fox's face was brought together, and he looked into Ryuichi's eyes, wishing to swallow the other person, eat his flesh, drink his blood, and he couldn't solve his hatred. It's really stingy, but if you eat your little snake, I don't think there is anything wrong. After all, it looks like you guys have eaten my plan again. Ryuichi put his hands on his head behind him, in a leisurely manner. Advertisement. Fox's face was completely angered, and his eyes were quickly covered with bloodshot eyes. The white magic flames boiled instantly. Bai Yanhu. The hands of the face of the fox quickly formed a seal, and the speed was so fast that there were many afterimages. Behind him, the white flames condensed and formed, and a giant tiger appeared outrageously, let out a roar, with fierce power, went straight to Ryuichi to kill. Roar. Long Xingyan, Tiger Xingfeng. There was a tiger roar, like a storm. The magic flame roared along with the tiger. In an instant, he appeared in front of Ryuichi. I'm not interested in cats. Facing the terrifying monster close at hand, Ryuichi's eyes flashed with a sharp light. The left hand lifted instantly. At the moment when Bai Yan's fierce tiger attack had not yet fallen, he slammed into the tiger's head. The tyrannical power exploded outrageously, and the gloomy light emitted by the divine machine wrapped around his arm, cutting off all the white magic flames. Boom. Bang. This punch hit directly on the head of the Bai Yan fierce tiger. The tyrannical force bombarded the tiger's head unscrupulously. For a moment, the tiger collapsed instantly like a piece of tofu. The demon flame was firmly suppressed by the gloomy light emitted by the divine machine, and the demon flame that seemed to never extinguished gradually dissipated under the gloomy light. Ryuichi's mouth brought a trace of violence. It's really Base. Ryuichi's figure disappeared in place like a ghost. Thanks for your hard work. Benkwon Punch. Chapter 45. Advertisement. As Ryuichi's voice rang, his godlike figure suddenly appeared in front of the fox face. Above both fists, the curse power entangled continuously, circling continuously on Ryuichi's arm like a poisonous snake. This punch hasn't been hit yet, but just relying on the aftermath of the accumulation of energy, it has already caused ripples in the space. Benkwon Chong. Rumble. A punch is like a subversion of heaven and earth. In the eyes of the fox face, Ryuichi's iron fist is getting bigger and bigger. It seems that he has lost the ability to move. He can obviously avoid this extremely devastating blow, but the whole person does stand in place, stupidly as if being taken in. Attentive. Bang. Ryuichi's broken fist penetrated directly through the chest of the fox face. But the weird thing is, the body of the fox face did not imagine the scene of blood flow. On the contrary, there was a strange smile at the corner of his mouth. Ed. Idiot. Whoops. The whole body of the fox face began to burn wildly with white magic flames, and the flames followed Ryuichi's arms through his chest and began to burn at an extremely fast speed. Like a man-eating ant. Quickly wrap Ryuichi's arm. The white magic flame that never extinguished, with a cold solemnity, began to burn on Ryuichi's arm. The moment the body of the fox face ignited Ryuichi's body, it began to collapse, disintegrate, and melt quickly. In the end, it was like a puddle of soft mud, completely returned to nothingness. Beside the 9 ghosts who were watching coldly, a white figure slowly emerged, and the fox's face looked a little proud. Advertisement. From the beginning, this body was a trap. The fox noodles staying in Osaka are not idle. He has learned about everything that happened in the supermarket through some shameless means. After knowing that Ryuichi's strength has reached the first level, he made a plan for the moment. Relying on your own jujutsu, dealing with this kind of guy with strong physical strength is simply easy. Ho 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 ho, Zenin Ryuichi. I didn't expect it. My jujutsu, is the osseous jujutsu. It can turn into everything by accumulating the death fire of burning bones. This flame will never go out. He will start burning from your arm, and finally spread to your whole body, your soul, and your curse power. Everything you have will be ignited by me, in the endless pain, go to repent. This is the price of fooling me. The eyes of the fox face were covered with deep bloodshot eyes, like a jackal who had been hungry for days and nights. The resentment in his eyes seemed to be substantive, almost overflowing. The dream he had been pursuing for half his life was easily destroyed by this guy in front of him. How could he not hate it? How does he not hate? He looked at Ryuichi expectantly. I want to see Ryuichi, who is lingering and yelling in embarrassment under the white magic flame. Even a man of iron can only behave like a dog under his jujutsu. The pain of burning the soul is unacceptable to anyone. But, what was about to happen really moved the fox face with disappointment and horror. He saw, my own demon flame, which seemed to never extinguish, was wrapped in layers of blue power on Ryuichi's palm. The power emanating from that faint blue seems to be able to cut off all curse power. The magic flame became more and more dimmed in Ryuichi's hand and finally turned into a touch of nothingness. The corner of Ryuichi's mouth was a little taunting, looking at the dumb face of the fox in front of him, and the Kuji that was like a big enemy. He shook his hair helplessly, and said dissatisfiedly. Advertisement. For the long time I was looking forward to it, it turned out to be this kind of thing. Bang. Ryuichi squeezed his palms together, and the tyrannical force instantly annihilated the sporadic demon flames around him. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. My osteitis jujutsu is inextinguishable, how could you possibly? The fox yelled hysterically, unable to believe everything in front of him. The scene that happened at this moment completely destroyed his pride. Having exhausted half of his life, jujutsu, proud of his bone inflammation, was in front of Ryuichi, unable to even play the role of a star. For the proud him, it was almost like a heavy hammer, which hit his heart fiercely. Make him a little fuzzy for a while. Hey, fox noodles. Now is not the time to be in a daze. Jugi pushed the fox noodles anxiously, trying to wake up the fox noodles. But Ryuichi seems to have lost interest in the two of them. The smile on his face gradually faded. In his eyes, there was a cold murderous intent. Base. Point to the ground. In an instant, a pair of fists with infinite power, with unmatched strength. Straightforwardly flatten everything around. Ryuichi has already killed the fox face. There was no mercy, no hesitation. This punch hit directly on the head of the fox's face. The 9 ghosts on the side shrank suddenly. The figure quickly twisted, and fleeing frantically. What brother? For a comrade in arms, only one's own life is the most important when it comes to life and death. Chapter 46. Advertisement. Bang. With the power to tear everything apart, Benkwon brazenly bombarded the face of the desolate fox. Null. Boom. With this punch, the head of the fox's face instantly exploded into blood mist. The white and the red ones exploded right now. The power of Yulin floated again, annihilating all the filth. With a casual flick of his palm, Ryuichi glanced around quickly. Where can you go if the account is not broken? Hulala. The powerful suction exploded on Ryuichi's body. The curse power of the fox face was quickly swallowed by 6 Immortal Thief Treasury. This kind of takeaway delivered to your door is really happy. The figure of the 9 ghosts evaded crazily in the black mist. His jujutsu is the soul reserve jujutsu who can split the soul. Able to absorb the souls of ordinary humans and split their own souls. The absorbed ordinary soul can be stored as a curse. However, a large amount of modeled curse power does not improve his combat power, but it allows him to continuously obtain curse power, just like carrying a large power bank. His jujutsu attack can be used directly. Jujutsu drowns a person's soul. But, as long as he shows the power of the spell, he won't be swallowed directly by Ryuichi. So after the death of the fox face, he could only choose to flee. Damn fox noodles. I usually look like a lofty genius. What a waste. Jujutsu is just like an idiot. You really killed me. The current 9 ghosts no longer think about revenge or rights at all. Advertisement. The fox face was shattered by the beating head in front of him, and even a few traces of his brain splashed on his body. Only then did the 9 ghosts find out. Everything is so trivial before death. Everything before cannot be called a battle at all. It was clearly a slaughter. In the face of the absolute power gap, Kuki couldn't even raise the slightest heart of resistance, just thinking about being able to avoid Ryuichi's sight. The tent that had been pushed outside was destroyed, and then escaped and ran to a place where no one found. Continue to live a normal life of nothing to kill and torture the soul. The outside world is too dangerous for an ordinary curse teacher like him. He hides in the darkness, like a mouse. The curse power turns into tentacles, perceiving everything around him. Once there is any disturbance, he is ready to split the soul directly, destroy the 8 remaining souls of himself, and can run out one by one. At this moment, abnormal, a big hand suddenly appeared in front of the 9 ghosts. Silent, as if appearing out of thin air, without any fluctuations in curse power, even his tentacles were completely unaware. But that slender palm really appeared in front of his eyes, with an unstoppable force of terror. It was firmly grasped on his head. The cat and mouse game is over. The young man's voice did not carry the slightest human emotion, like a cold wind, freezing the whole body of the 9 ghosts. Off book. Cher held a can of unfinished beer in his hand and sat on the sand, looking with interest at the account that covered his company in front of him. He smashed his mouth happily. Hey, it makes you so lazy, so exercise. She took a sip of beer and wiped the corners of his mouth indiscriminately. The sparse beard was growing on his chin in a disorderly manner. Advertisement. He brushed his chin with his hand, and his beard fell off as if shaken by some kind of force. He has felt it since someone coveted this ocean view villa, and he didn't believe that his nominal boss hadn't noticed it. I'm not lazy. I just ask the boss to exercise. It's very caring, right? Click. Shire looked at the man stepped under her feet, as if asking the other person's opinion. And the man was trembling and couldn't say a word. Under Shier's feet, his whole body trembled. Why? Zenin Shier, this monster, will be here. Why? The man came to find the meaning of Ryuichi. With the help of the man in black, he and the proprietress came to Shan's, but he didn't expect that the BCH of the proprietress would actually run to find Casey. Dibben didn't expect what that woman could do. Self-consciously inquired. The House of Everything in Ryuichi is very famous in the small place of Shan's. Almost 80% of abnormal situations are handled here. After finding the House of Everything, D did not act the first time, but thought about how to communicate with Ryuichi. But I didn't expect it. As soon as he was thinking about speaking, he ran into Shire, who came out of the room and planned to have fun. Before joining the House of All Things, Shire could be said to be in the Jujutsu world, which is not visible. Naturally, he recognized that the wretched guy in front of him was a member of the Dark World. And unfortunately, as soon as the two met, the tent was raised. This will inevitably make Shire misunderstand that everything is the ghost of this guy. He didn't listen to the explanation at all, and the one who divided by 2 was pressed to the ground. D's strengthened body, without even the slightest resistance in front of Shire, was trampled under his feet. Chapter 47. Advertisement. Click. The corpse of 9 ghosts was like a dilapidated toy, and was thrown on the ground indiscriminately, with blood flowing all over his body. The Kuki, who relied on Jujutsu to do whatever they wanted, had no resistance at all when faced with monsters like Ryuichi. And the plan he originally wanted to execute, the plan to split the soul and escape, didn't even have the slightest room for action. Because at the moment he was discovered, Ryuichi penetrated his body directly. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury is operating at full capacity. 9 ghosts are like a large power bank, continuously contributing to Ryuichi the curse power he has stored over the years. This really gave Ryuichi no small surprise. I originally thought that although these 2 guys could add to their progress, they probably didn't have much. But what I did not expect is, there is so much curse power hidden in the body of the 9 ghosts. Although this curse power is modeled, its qualities are different. But the number of wins is huge. Speaking of the amount of curse power alone, it was almost equal to half of the curse power provided by the 8-pointed snake. And 6 Immortal Thief Treasury has reached the status of great success. The swallowing speed is no longer comparable to before. Now Ryuichi, the power swallowed into the body can be digested almost instantly. On the system panel, the progress of 6 Immortal Thief Treasury is skyrocketing at a speed visible to the naked eye. 80%, 81%, 91%. Although the pace of progress is much slower than before, there is still no stopping the posture. It is still growing steadily. This made Ryuichi feel a little bit involuntarily. 9 ghosts and Fox Mian are really their own lucky stars. Not only let himself come to swallow the 8-headed snake. Advertisement. Now it is not far away to give people away. The progress of his 6 Immortal Thief Treasury is almost full. If it weren't for them, it's estimated that a 6 Immortal Thief Treasury would have been stuck on his own for several years. Good person, Ryuichi couldn't help but sigh with emotion thinking of what Toro would do for herself. Finally squeezed out all the curse power the 9 ghosts had stored over the past few decades. The progress of 6 Immortal Thief Treasury is only 3% short of being able to withstand 100%. A gleam of light broke out on Ryuichi's chest. Instantly annihilate the body of the 9 ghosts. No trace was left. At the same time, a touch of emerald green also emerged from the divine machine and slowly landed on Ryuichi's palm. A vivid human head is carved on the jade pendant. This object is the cursed object that Ryuichi took out of the body of the super cursed spirit in the supermarket in Osaka earlier. Hidden inside are extremely magnificent curses and curse. Previously, when he digested the curse of the 8 different big snake, he couldn't call 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, and he hadn't swallowed the cursed power of this cursed object. But right now, only one kick can unlock the next stunt. Ryuichi did not hesitate at all. Grab this Quiyu directly. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, running like crazy. Boil oh boil. Oh oh oh. There were bursts of ghosts crying and howling wolves, weirdly resounding in the room. This sound was like the appearance of a Rakshasa, and like an evil ghost coming to the world. Why are you cruel? Ah, you said you want to marry me. I am pregnant for you in October. You are so to me. I don't accept it. I don't accept it. How can you fail me? How can you fail me? Advertisement. The sound seemed to be superimposed on countless human screams, and it seemed that all the lamenting women in the world were crying in it. The surrounding walls glowed with weird green light. One by one, slender and pale palms came out from all directions, clinging to Ryuichi's body one after another. The palms were cold and wet, without the slightest temperature. In the pale, like countless women, lamenting why his lover is so ruthless. The woman's voice seemed to be squeezed out between her teeth, with deep bitterness and madness. It kept ringing in Ryuichi's ear. Ryuichi sat on the sofa. Holding the jade in his hand, facing everything with no expression on his face, his eyes half closed. The curse power hovered throughout his body, the blue of divine armament 100 refinements, and the brilliance of 6 Immortal Thief Treasury continued to converge on his body. Isolate all the weird surroundings. Wow. Ah, you don't love me. Just let me go. Don't love me. Just let me go. Under the faint blue and bright, the palms of Ryuichi's body were like candles in the wind, all of them vanished. The woman's voice became extremely painful and terrifying. Everything around began to change constantly. On the walls, ceilings, floors, and chandeliers, countless long black hair emerged out of thin air. Entangling everything, the long black hair, with bursts of viscous blood, makes everything look so terrifying. Long hair is like a venomous snake, hovering over everything. Except for the sofa where Ryuichi was on, everything here was overwhelmed by the long hair. Become a sea of death. 99%, 99%, 100%. Base. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury is complete. The third stunt is unlocked successfully. A mechanical voice rang in Ryuichi's ear. Chapter 48. Advertisement. Woo. Bad guy. A bummer. Men are all liars. Damn them. Damn you too. Damn. In the room, the woman's bitter voice became the only melody. Long black hair hovered in every corner of the room, and a pair of slender hands were faintly visible in the air. Ryuichi sat cross-legged on the sofa, under this hell-like scene. He was at ease, as if all this had nothing to do with him. Whether it's a terrible cry or long dark hair, none of this seems to affect this man anymore. He sits in it, like the master of this ghost realm. If that curse is the source of all treacherous creations, so Ryuichi is now the master of all curse. His eyes opened slowly, revealing those moon-white eyes that looked like a bright moon. Seeing everything around him, there was a flash of excitement in his eyes. FK, FK, take your life, take your life. Oh oh oh. As Ryuichi's eyes opened, a woman's figure slowly appeared in midair. Her whole body was wet and bloody, and her face was covered by long black hair all over her head. Countless palms flared their teeth and claws around her, and her long black hair hovered around her like a poisonous snake. Through the layers of black hair, the pair of resentful eyes stared at Ryuichi in front of him, as if looking at a negative person. The resentment almost condensed into substance, falling from the corner of her eye. What a strong curse. This is the curse on the jade. Ryuichi played with the jade in his hand. The sculpture of the human head on it has become extremely blurred with the appearance of curse. F************ R. Naughty. I said, you are also a special grade who doesn't know how long it has existed, so you won't only say such a word. Ryuichi stretched out his hands helplessly. Advertisement. A cursed spirit keeps repeating something in front of you. The ordinary jujutsu teacher may have been scared to pee. The cursed spirit, which can express its own language completely and clearly, is one of the best even in the special class. After all, this is a special grade cursed spirit that has been around for a long time. A superb batch with obvious wisdom and perfect human form. But Ryuichi is obviously no ordinary person. Constantly listening to the woman scream in her ear. Ryuichi showed some impatience on his face. The long hair and palms that were constantly trying to attack Ryuichi were blocked by the dim light radiating from the divine machine. But, the gloom at this moment is far less bright than before. Already, that faint blue began to dim continuously. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. Feeling that the power that blocked her was about to dissipate, the black-haired cursed spirit looked unusually excited, she roared and waved her hands. Damn it, damn it, damn it, go, go. The long dark hair in the whole room seemed to be mad, dancing irregularly. In the midair, it condensed into a giant wave, and pressed down hard against Ryuichi. Wow, rumble, it deserves to be an antique. The magic power stored by the magic machine has been exhausted. In the face of such a crisis, Ryuichi is still so unhurried, as if nothing in this world can shake his mind. Badger. Die. Following that, cursed spirit let out a bleak scream. The huge wave fell abruptly, and the long black hair that seemed inexhaustible, instantly submerged Ryuichi, and even the whole room was stirred frantically. Pung. Advertisement. Pung pung. Negative, negative man. After a long time, the black wave subsided, and the cursed spirit seemed to calm down, constantly talking about her obsession. The desolation in the voice cannot be concealed anyway. It seems that I did not feel the slightest joy because of killing the bad guy of Ryuichi. Love is the biggest curse in the world. A voice suddenly rang in cursed spirit's ear. Unhappy. The cursed spirit became violent again, the black tide stirred crazily again, as if wanting to make a comeback again, but the next moment. An eternal night darker than darkness suddenly bloomed. That Yongyi represents the end of everything. It also represents all the unknown haze. With the appearance of the eternal night, the originally violent cursed spirit instantly stopped the movement of the body. Everything around was as if the pause button had been pressed, the black wave no longer rolled, and the slender palm no longer appeared. The cursed spirit floated in the air blankly. Endless Yongyi kept climbing on her body. Ryuichi looked at the cursed spirit who was quiet in front of him, and moved his left fingers together. The mysterious aura slowly radiated from his body, and the root of the endless eternal night radiated from Ryuichi's fingers together. Ji Ling. Ryuichi snorted softly. The gesture suddenly changed, and in an instant, Yongyi, which had clung to the cursed spirit, quickly crawled all over the cursed spirit. The black breath began to invade the cursed spirit's body continuously. Send General. Ryuichi quickly closed his hands, and black Yongyi broke out in an instant. In the cursed spirit's whole body, countless black chains faintly appeared, with mysterious runes, quietly reclusive. Wow. The cursed spirit began to converge everything around him, and the long black hair faded away like a tide. Chapter 49. Advertisement. After a long while, Ryuichi landed on the sofa again. In front of him, the cursed spirit, who was not alive just now, was as clever as a pet. Without cursed object, I almost overturned. Ryuichi once again played with the jade in his hand, which is the cursed object of the cursed woman cursed spirit. Dispatch of Detained Spirits can master all cursed spirits. Become your own puppet, suppress the cursed spirit's consciousness, and completely obey the user's commands. It stands to reason that the Dispatch of Detained Spirits that Ryuichi just unlocked is far from mastering this ancient special class, but because this special class has been sealed for too long. So that the consciousness has not fully recovered, and his root cursed object is still in Ryuichi's hands. By directly controlling the cursed object, he bombards the already vague cursed spirit will. Suppress it in an instant. The whole process seems simple, but in fact it is extremely dangerous. This kind of ancient curse, even Ryuichi is difficult to defeat directly, even after the magic power stored in Divine Machine Sky is completely consumed, the victory may drop by more than 10%. Fortunately, the third stunt that just awakened, Dispatch of Detained Spirits, was powerful enough. He actually suppressed this ancient curse into his own puppet. However, the command Cursed Spirit is not the most powerful place of Dispatch of Detained Spirits. The true ability of Dispatch of Detained Spirits is that you can extract jujutsu that subdued the cursed spirit and become your own jujutsu. In other words, every time Ryuichi succeeds in cooling, he gets a powerful jujutsu. I hope you won't let me down. Ryuichi glanced at the long-haired cursed spirit in front of him, mutteringly. Slowly raised his left hand. A black spiral nest emerged in his hand. Advertisement. With endless suction, it broke out in an instant. The long-hair cursed spirit turned into a black air, without the slightest resistance, and was directly swallowed by the black spiral nest. Bang! A black air appeared on Ryuichi's body, and it surrounded him tightly. His eyes gradually became blurred. It seemed that countless images flashed crazily in Ryuichi's eyes. Looking forward to the return of the lover, the pain of being betrayed by the lover, the sorrow of being scolded by the world, the cursing of helpless being pressed on the ground, the resentment of being completely abandoned by the times. Everything disappeared quickly in front of Ryuichi's eyes. After a long time, the black air faded away. Ryuichi's eyes moved slightly. In an instant, he experienced all the causes and effects formed by the cursed spirit. From the Warring States period, the resentment and curse of countless abandoned women came from the curse of women's anger and sorrow that was destroyed by the war. So, love is the biggest curse in the world. Ryuichi's voice was long and his eyes flashed, as if he was thinking of a past that he didn't want to recall. Then he suppressed all emotions. Snapped. He stretched out his hand and snapped a crisp finger. The surrounding space floated slightly, and a strong and powerful hand appeared out of thin air, carrying a terrifying force, as if it could tear everything. Being able to repeat his own attacks countless times, appearing in any direction, it is worthy of being a special class. Ryuichi nodded in satisfaction. I am very satisfied with this ability. Although this ability is not a metamorphosis, once matched with Ryuichi's power like a steel behemoth, there will be an unimaginable chemical reaction. It's time to clean the room again. Ryuichi glanced at it with a headache. The ruined room was quite a headache. Advertisement. Sudden. Frowned. The eyes condensed slightly, only feeling a little strange in the body. Black aura emerged from the whole body, the palms spread out flat in the air. Bursts of black aura condensed in Ryuichi's palms, with strong suction, constantly pulling Ryuichi's body of. It seemed that something was dormant in Ryuichi's body. A black energy was suddenly pulled out of Ryuichi's body. It fell on the palm of his hand. This is. Ryuichi looked at her palm in surprise. A pocket monster measuring only 10 centimeters appeared in his hand. 8 heads and 8 tails, body erosion, snake eyes scarlet, covered with iron stones. Isn't it the 8 different snake that was swallowed by himself? Unexpectedly, this thing was not completely digested, but lost consciousness, turned into the most primitive essence and hid in Ryuichi's body. But I didn't expect to be discovered by Dispatch of Detained Spirits. Incomplete curse, I can't sculpt the spirit. The curse of this 8-pointed snake is not complete, otherwise it won't let Ryuichi absorb it so easily, which Ryuichi has long known. Originally, I thought about devouring it. Now that the progress of 6 Immortal Thief Treasury is full, there is no need to look for other parts of it to devour it, but it's different now. If you can restrain the spirit, the 8-pointed snake, what kind of surprise this powerful curse that has been formed since the existence of Fuzang can bring you? Ryuichi unconsciously had some expectations. Interesting, where are the other 2 cursed objects? Ryuichi rubbed his chin subconsciously. Forget it. Don't worry, before you find Baki Orochi, improve your progress. Chapter 50. Advertisement. The dispatch of detained spirits that has just been unlocked is actually very limited. When facing the cursed spirit with strong strength in front of it, it may not be able to successfully restrain the spirit. At this point, the moment Ryuichi unlocked Dispatch of Detained Spirits, he already had feelings in his heart. The super-class cursed spirit that was able to restrain the spirit was only successful due to various coincidences. If Ryuichi is now faced with a complete body of the Orochi, Ryuichi may be more than enough, but it would be a bit idiotic to say that I can hold the Orochi. The power of cursed spirit comes from the negative emotions of human beings. So in a sense, cursed spirit is an immortal existence. As long as the cursed spirit has always existed, they will continue to absorb human negative emotions and become stronger. No one has known what kind of terrible strength it would have if the 3 seals converge at the same time, like the curse that existed since the Baki Orochi has written records. But most of it will be as recorded in history books. There are giant beasts with 8 different names, and wherever they go, corpses are everywhere, yellow sand is all over the sky, mountains and rivers are broken, and rivers are half exhausted. Open the panel. A blue semi-transparent panel that only he can see appeared in front of Ryuichi's eyes. Divine Armament 100 refinements. Satisfactory current progress is 100%. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury. Successful, the current progress is 100%. Dispatch of Detained Spirits. Beginner, 5% of the current progress. Feng Hu Chi Men. Unlocked. Full Hand. Not unlocked. Tong Tian Talisman. Unlocked. Deluo Cave Temple. Unlocked. Origin of Qi. Unlocked. Advertisement. Only a special grade cursed spirit can increase the progress by 5%. Sure enough, the further 8 mysterious arts is, the more difficult it will be to improve the progress. Just like 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, if it weren't for Yuanlu's large experience baby, it would come to the door. I don't know how long it will take to reach the state of consummation. It looks like I'm really going to Tokyo. Ryuichi played with the beautiful jade in his hand. The curse had been completely removed by Ryuichi, and it was now reduced to an ordinary jade pendant. But it still exudes a faint green light, which is breathtaking. Going to Tokyo was originally planned by Ryuichi. After all, it is difficult for even the first-class cursed spirit to appear in a small place like Sugazawa. Compared to Tokyo and Osaka, the number of people in this place is too scarce. The cursed spirit was born in the negative emotions of human beings. The larger the population base, the stronger the cursed spirit was born. In order to strengthen his own strength, he had already made preparations to go to Tokyo. However, according to his original plan, he was going to Tokyo in a leisurely period of time, but since Dispatch of Detained Spirits had been unlocked, he had no choice but to follow the boat. Base. A black shadow suddenly appeared at the window, passing by at an extremely fast speed. He appeared on the opposite side of Ryuichi in an instant. Shere Hun sat on the sofa without hesitation. The beer in his hand hasn't been finished yet, and there is even a bit of froth on the corner of his mouth. It's solved so soon, boss. You were so embarrassed to say that for an employee like you, I'm already pretty good without deducting your salary. I actually let the boss do it himself. When she heard this, 3 black lines suddenly appeared on her head. Nima, have you seen such a boss? Give 3 coins as salary in 1 month. Special salary deductions. Shere really didn't hold back, and rolled his eyes at Ryuichi. Ryuichi looked completely unaware. He focused his attention on the figure at Shere's feet. Advertisement. We're the house of everything, not a triad. What do you do when you catch someone back? Ryuichi waved his hand in disgust when looking at the figure that was rolling like a worm at Shere's feet. Ah, you say him. He is sneaking around the door. Maybe he attracted all your enemies. This guy is from Master Curse's side. What is it called? She frowned slightly, thinking hard about the name of the man at his feet. After a long while, he said with a mouthful of white teeth. Sorry, remembering the name of the ant is still a difficult thing for me. It is true that Shere's words are very arrogant, but he does have the proud capital. Although like the cursed teacher, the bounty hunter is still not a visible profession. Can stand at the apex of all bounty hunters and despise everything like an emperor. Heaven and tyrant, Fuheisher, he is qualified to say this. I can't stand you, how old you are still so second. Ryuichi glanced at Shire with disgust. Fingers moved slightly, and a cold light appeared immediately. Drifting, the cold light flashes in an instant. All the ropes that Shire bound to the man broke. The dark blue dagger returned quietly to Ryuichi's back. But the icy chill that radiated from the blade made Shire's gaze immediately attracted. First class. No, it's special class. Superior. The untied truth couldn't help exclaiming. Chapter 51. Advertisement. But the next moment, he dared not make any noises. His whole body was cold sweat constantly, his hands and feet were cold, and his teeth trembled. Only because that blue dagger was like a ghost. Suddenly, it appeared in his throat. The tip of the knife touched his artery lightly. Only in the slightest forward, his blood vessels will be completely cut off and blood will flow horizontally. Mister, I have no intentions. I am here to look for Mr. to cooperate, and come here with sincerity. Mr. D forcefully suppressed the fear in his heart, and under the shadow of death, he shouted quickly, for fear that one step later would be desperate on the spot. He had a faint feeling that if he really had any bad thoughts towards the young man in front of him, then the knife would penetrate his throat without hesitation. Right now, Ryuichi's eyes are like a bright moon, as cold as a snowy mountain, without any human emotions. In this pair of eyes, D only felt that his whole body was naked, from body to soul, everything about him was seen through, without any privacy. Cooperate. Ryuichi reread what D said with interest. Explain your intentions, remember not to talk nonsense, this knife of mine actually has its own consciousness, if you have a nonsense, then this knife may be inserted into your neck. Ryuichi's smiling appearance fell in D's eyes, as terrifying as the evil spirits of hell. He was wondering why this handsome boy who was obviously like the big boy next door had such a terrifying aura. Advertisement. And the reason why Ryuichi has such an attitude towards this guy, apart from the other party's sneaky wandering at his door, there is another important reason, that is, Ryuichi feels malicious in him. Unprovoked as pure malice. It may be difficult for ordinary people to perceive such vain feelings of malice. But, under the nourishment of 6 immortal thief treasury, Ryuichi's body has far surpassed the scope of human beings. Whether it is muscle strength, senses, or intuition, it has reached a level that is difficult for ordinary people to understand. Simply put, everything about the emotions that Ryuichi was born can be instantly aware of. As long as anyone has thoughts against him, his body will instinctively react to combat. This was a surprise that came after the success of 6 immortal thief treasury. The fairy is one step faster, the thief is sharp and unparalleled. Immortal thieves can anticipate all crises and cradle all possible threats. Therefore, the moment Ryuichi saw truth, the murderous intent in his heart had awakened again. According to his character, he should have penetrated D's throat directly, and would not listen to the other party's words at all. However, in this guy, Ryuichi instinctively realized that he was not the malicious distributor, but the transmitter. That is to say, the relationship of subordinates who have extremely malicious existence towards Ryuichi will be contaminated. This aroused Ryuichi's interest and allowed him to live for a while. Okay, Mr. Ryuichi, my name is D, from the Human Mutual Aid Association. This time I am looking for a husband to form an alliance. Feel the cold murderous intent in the throat. Advertisement. Where can I dare to write ink, like poor beans, quickly telling my purpose of coming here? Since the sir comes from the Zenin family, he naturally knows the enmity between the Zenin family and the Gojo family. The Gojo family, the next patriarch, Gojo Satoru is extremely powerful, and he has mastered unlimited techniques and 6 eyes, and his future achievements are almost limitless. We know that Mr. Yi's strength will naturally not be afraid of Gojo Satoru in the future, but as long as we cooperate, we can completely figure out Gojo Satoru in the infancy. The villain is here to discuss this matter with your husband. Our president welcomes your husband at any time. And with the utmost sincerity, as long as Mr. needs, all members of the association will be Mr. S help. D's speech speed is extremely fast, for fear that a 1-second slow will cause any discomfort to Ryuichi, and he will say goodbye to this beautiful world. Ryuichi, who was lying on the sofa, looked at Sheer on the opposite side with a weird face, and Sheer looked at Ryuichi with the same gaze. As his eyes met, the corners of Ryuichi's mouth twitched. Are you sure? A Curse Division's organization is called Human Mutual Aid Association. Sheer also looked uncertain, scratching the back of his head awkwardly, and said brightly. Yes, maybe. It doesn't matter. But this guy, just now, seems to be saying that he wants us to get rid of Gojo for the Zenin family. Cher's mouth couldn't help but curl up. It seems so. Ha 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 ha. Cher broke out with a burst of earth-shattering laughter. Ryuichi also leaned his body on the sofa, with the corners of his mouth slightly upward, drawing a slightly mocking smile. Kneeling on the ground did not understand why the two of them laughed. Chapter 52. Advertisement. It's not to blame him. Although Shire was swept out by Zenin's house, but for the lowest level guy in the world like D, he was not qualified to get information about him. So he didn't even figure out why Shire became a bounty hunter. She has always regarded Shire as a family elder brother who came out to experience life. After all, a guy with such strength, who would have thought that he would be swept out because he had no curse power. With Shire's combat power against the sky alone, even the first level Jujutsu division did not know how many he had killed. Two gentlemen. Now is not the time to laugh. Once Gojo Satoru is allowed to grow up, in the future, the Zenin family will surely be destroyed in his hands. At that time, the Zenin family's blood will definitely be cut and wiped out by the other party. The family's thousands of years of honor will be burned. The high-rise building collapses and the reputation is dusted. D seems to be more excited than these two Zenin family members. The courage who didn't know where it came from actually yelled loudly, and that voice actually suppressed Cher's laughter. A black mist was constantly surging up and down his whole body. Although it passed away in a flash, it couldn't escape Ryuichi's eyes. When Shire heard D's roar, the smile on his face was slightly reduced. He looked at the truth at his feet seriously, scratched his cheek with his fingers, his eyes jokingly. What does it have to do with me? No matter what the Zenin's house is, whether it is still brilliant or the tall building collapses, everything has nothing to do with me. Ryuichi, what did you say? Zenin's house is shit, Ryuichi replied lightly. The eyes are indeed still looking at the truth, as if to see through. What is the black mist that flashed just now? Advertisement. Yes, Zenin's house is shit. For that ancient family, Ryuichi did not have the slightest feeling for him. From the time he had memory, his own food and clothing costs were obtained through labor. After being checked out of the curse power, he even had his own room. Be deprived of. As a traverser, Ryuichi can't say how resentful the Zenin family's behavior is. He who has matured his mind and understands that there is no use value, for the big family, he is a stranger just like outsiders. What kind of blood relatives, what family inheritance, everything is fart in front of strength. So he doesn't resent, but he doesn't have any feelings for Zenin's family. No, Zheng Jin, one night, he also had a bit of nostalgia for that cold family because of the existence of a person. But, after all, he was obliterated by the ruthless honor. Therefore, if you don't shoot at Zenin's family, it's already Ryuichi's greatest forbearance. Seeing the truth of the two people's posture, he couldn't help swallowing and spitting. He didn't understand what kind of person it was that would contempt his family so much. Don't persuade others to be kind to others without suffering. Although D didn't talk too much, he was still very worried. He came with the president's expectations. If he went back in such a desperate way, then he might as well die. Think of the truth here. He looked firmly at Ryuichi with a frivolous face. Even he himself didn't notice, an extremely filthy black mist appeared in his eyes. Mr. Ryuichi, Gojo Satoru is too dangerous for all humans. The purpose of our organization is to help people all over the world help each other. We have been working hard for it, but the appearance of the monster Gojo Satoru broke all balance. His strength is stronger than the balance of this era. Advertisement. His attitude can even determine the entire Jujutsu world in the future. No. It's the direction of the entire world. This is too dangerous for the world. It is too unfair for the people of the world. Putting everything on the good and evil of one person is simply unacceptable. D's expression was excited, his face flushed, and his hands danced as he spoke, like a brainwashed madman, like a mad believer, spreading his faith. Our president has seen the long-term future. Mr. Ryuichi, you are the only person in this world who can stop Gojo. For the future of mankind, please help us. Please help us. After all, completely ignoring his throat, the god of death who could take his life at any time, put his hands on the ground respectfully. Head down and knocked down heavily. Boom, boom, boom. The intensity was so strong that Ryuichi could feel the floor under his feet vibrating. Sheer listened to D's words and glanced at Ryuichi thoughtfully, and then at D. On the other hand, Ryuichi smashed his mouth, ignoring the truth of kneeling on the ground and knocking his head down over and over again. After a long while, he said quietly, "So it's so interesting. Your name is D, right?" Hearing Ryuichi's words, D stopped his movements and raised his head again. His forehead was already dripping with blood, but there were a few extremely subtle forces repairing his wounds. "Yes, sir." Chapter 53. Advertisement. You said that I am the only one who can stop Gojo Satoru. Have you ever thought that in the future, I will also be the one who will measure the whole world on the line of good and evil? Why do you think that someone can restrain me? This. Apparently Ryuichi's words stopped asking the truth. The dragon-slaying warrior eventually became the evil dragon. He didn't understand this truth. Ryuichi is right. Since Ryuichi is the only monster that can match Gojo, who can control Ryuichi after we work together to eradicate Gojo? When thinking about this question, his head seemed to explode and began to suffer. He couldn't bear it, hugged his head, fell to the ground, twisted his body frantically, and uttered waves of mourning. Ah, my head, my head. Ryuichi looked at the painful figure on the ground. Finally confirmed his judgment. Poor fellow. Ryuichi shook his head slightly, as if a little pity, and a little contemptuous. Ah, my head, my lord, why punish me, why? Di Sheng roared hoarsely, the blue veins on his head violently, in the case of extreme congestion, like disgusting centipedes, wriggling frantically. This guy is so noisy, do you want? Seeing the painful truth rolling on the ground, Shier didn't show the slightest movement in his eyes, but with a bit of cold killing intent. It seems that the man on the ground screamed, making him feel very bad. A slender machete appeared in his hand, showing murderous intent. Advertisement. Pity, sympathy, or compassion seems to have never appeared in this unruly man. Even if it is a living person, groaning like a pig or dog in front of him, he is still indifferent, only feeling that the other party is a little noisy. He was a dead man. Ryuichi made an understatement, but it exploded like thunder in D's ears, and the body that had been twisting constantly because of the pain suddenly stopped struggling. As if the pause button was pressed, lying motionless on the ground. In Ryuichi's eyes, a filthy foul air quickly rose up all over his body, constantly eroding D's body. When Shire saw this, his eyes shrank suddenly, and he instantly turned over and jumped up from the sofa, with a long knife in his hand flying, like countless wind flowers and snowy moons. Jung. In the blade light, murderous intent overflowed. Cher held a sharp blade and went straight to D's head to kill. In fact, in Shier's eyes, D's body has not changed at all. The perfect heavenly restriction made Cher's body stand at the top of the world almost from birth, but the relative price was. His body can't produce the slightest curse power. The source of mantra power is human negative emotions, and Jujutsu masters are controlling their own negative emotions and obtaining mantra power from them. Ordinary people can't extract mantra power, but they will produce negative emotions to breed mantra power. This is also the most part. The reason for the birth of cursed spirit. But Shier is different, he is completely complete and will not produce the slightest curse power. In other words, even if he produces negative emotions, he will not produce curse power, or there is another possibility, that is, the role of heavenly restriction on Cher is to reverse the curse power generated by that negative emotion and use it all nourish his body. In this world, or in this era, if there is no such an anomaly as Ryuichi. Advertisement. Then no one's body can reach the level of horror like Cher's. He really can't see the curse power and cursed spirit, but his perfect body can make him feel everything. So at the moment that weird curse power appeared, his body instinctively sensed a slight threat. It's so noisy. Shire roared, brandishing the long knife in his hand, and slashing at D's head. But, the imaginary scene of blood drifting with the pestle did not appear. In the midair, an invisible force blocked the long sword like a mountain. Shu Er's fatal blow was stopped. Whoosh, she lightly tapped her feet, and her whole body power burst out instantly. The figure moved quickly in the room, with a long knife in his hand hanging upside down, with infinite murderousness, his eyes were tightly fixed, and the corners of his mouth were full of arrogant smiles. It looks like it's going to be fun. How did you find me? D ignored the murderous Shier, but looked at Ryuichi on the sofa watching a play. At this time, his whole body was wrapped in black mist, and there were no white eyes in his eyes, but strange blackness. Occupied deeply. Like an abyss, with the power of temptation, people who stared at him couldn't help but want to sink into it. Set an inexplicable point as the lead, and it will explode when touched. This method is really clumsy. Chapter 54. Advertisement. Base. Ryuichi's voice did not fall. Shier on the side had been shot out like a bullet, and the long knife had appeared in D's throat. A tyrannical force burst out from the blade. It exploded in Dee's throat. This time there was indeed no force that could resist the attack of Cher. Flop. The white knife was in, but the red knife was not out. This knife directly severed Dee's throat. But Cher's expression was still not at all relaxed, with deep vigilance in his eyes, and the moment he penetrated the opponent's body, his figure turned again, stepped back a few steps, and returned to Ryuichi's side. What is this thing? Cher's knife was not unbelievable, it almost cut Dee's neck completely. If it weren't for the neck, there were two pieces of fleshy skin connected, I'm afraid the other party's head had completely fallen to the ground. S received this kind of mortal attack, but he didn't seem to feel at all, and there was no blood splashing in his throat, and he still stood in place. With those weird black eyes, I looked at Ryuichi closely. It's the first time I have seen cursed spirit who can communicate with people normally. The blue dagger floated quietly into Ryuichi's hand. It dances like a butterfly in Ryuichi's hands. Beautiful but murderous. The atmosphere in the room became extremely depressing. A man whose neck was severed but still talking. A flying dagger in his hand seems to be a young man who is not interested in anything. A long knife in his hand, like a gambler, an unruly killer. The three people painted a strange scene with 5 strokes together. How did you discover me? Advertisement. The voice of T has become somewhat neutral, making it difficult to distinguish between men and women, but what is certain is that it is definitely not his original voice. He seemed to have some doubts as to why Ryuichi could see through his identity. This sentence does not produce curse power by the body, but it can still use jujutsu. Isn't this suspicious? 6 Immortal Thief Treasury gave Ryuichi a near-perfect mastery of the power of the spell. Anyone who looked at him could almost see the flow of jujutsu. But only when this truth appears. Ryuichi couldn't find jujutsu in his body. In other words, whether it is facing the threat of death or the fear of unknown, there is no fluctuation in his heart. Negative emotions produce curse power, except for the anomaly of Ryuichi. This is the iron law of this world. An absolute rule that no one can violate. So Ryuichi suddenly became suspicious. You are right, human, you are very intelligent, think about it, and cooperate with me. D thought for a while, nodded deeply, and invited Ryuichi again. Ha ha ha, thank you for your compliment, I am very smart, but you are stupid. Ryuichi stood up from the sofa sarcastically. Finger moved slightly. Behind him, a horrible curse power condensed crazily. A woman in white clothes, black hair and wet body appeared behind him out of thin air. With astonishing tyranny, the pair of spiteful eyes hidden behind the long hair, looked closely at the truth. It seems that as long as Ryuichi gives an order, she will rush forward without hesitation and tear the man to pieces. Temple, you have recovered. Seeing the emergence of this special class, Dai was very surprised. It seemed that the appearance of the temptress made him very surprised. You should be still sleeping. It's you who made trouble. I don't know why, it seems that the appearance of the woman on that day has made the soul attached to the body become extremely angry. There were even a few trills in the voice. Advertisement. And Ryuichi looked at his eyes, and his interest became more intense. Knowing temptress, having enough wisdom, and even having emotions, how long has this guy lived? Ryuichi glanced at her side. Cher, who was ready to take a shot at any time, waved her hand to signal the other party to calm down. At any rate, you are also an old guy. Don't be so excited, do you know that our human world has something to say? The originally angry cursed spirit was interrupted by Ryuichi, and there was a visibly stunned face on his face. What are you talking about? No one came empty-handed. I accepted your gift. Base. Bang. Before the words were over, Ryuichi's figure already appeared in front of Dai. In his hand, a black vortex formed by Yongye was constantly twisting and deforming. Click. Snapped. This palm directly grabbed the somewhat shaky neck of Dai, and pulled it hard, only to hear a pounce, and a big head was directly taken off by Ryuichi and held it in his hand. The black vortex exploded with powerful power. Yongye appeared like a ghost, and in a flash, swallowed that head. Cut. It really doesn't work. Ryuichi disappointedly dropped the head in his hand. Sure enough, the other party was not coming from the body, and what remained in the body was just a few filths. However, although he did not succeed in cursing the spirit, Ryuichi is not without gain. A meaningful smile appeared unconsciously at the corner of his mouth. A cursed spirit hidden in the human world, what organization has been formed, and the goal is to get rid of Gojo, it is simply too fun. But this is not important, the most important thing is that the other party actually hit his mind. The next period of time will not be boring. Shire. Ready to move. Chapter 55. Advertisement. After half a month. Tokyo. Poor street. This is the most barren place in Tokyo, where countless poor people gather for warmth. It is a garbage dump for the rich and an amusement park for the poor. Garbage can be seen everywhere on the floor, and the rotten sour smell is the only smell here. There are buzzing flies everywhere here, boring mice. And just in this extremely dirty street, a dilapidated mansion is indeed extremely clean and tidy. In this filthy and dirty street, it seems so out of place and unique. Ha ha ha. Dad, push it higher, higher. The little girl's crisp voice rang happily in the courtyard. Like a happy lark, happily enjoying the long-lost quiet time with his father. Okay, higher, higher. The girl's father followed his daughter's wishes and pushed the swing high. Hearing her daughter's laughter, there was an unstoppable smile around her eyes. But the next moment, his smile quickly converged, and a filthy black mist quickly emerged from the depths of his eyes. The action of pushing the swing has also slowed down. What's the matter, Dad? The little girl pursed her mouth and looked at her father with dissatisfaction. She hadn't enjoyed her fun yet. The girl Schwelingling's big eyes had flickered with tears. Seems to be ready to cry at any time. Seeing his daughter look like this, the black mist in his eyes quickly disappeared. Pushing the swing again hurriedly, pushing her daughter high into the air, the girl's cheerful laughter sounded again in the yard. A few crows suddenly landed on the fence of the courtyard. They obviously hated the crows during the day so much that they violated their instinct and appeared under the scorching sun. Advertisement. The dark bird's eyes looked closely at the little girl on the swing and the man in the courtyard, like a loyal guard. Quack quack, quack quack. The crow's cry, with an unpleasant hoarseness, seemed to play an unknown tragic song. The little girl was brought back to the room by her mother. Only the man was left sitting in the courtyard. A crow quietly landed on the man's shoulder. In the courtyard, the man looked at the crow on his shoulder, as if looking at himself through the crow's eyes. Said quietly after a long while, "Zenin Ryuichi, you should die too." Quack quack, quack quack. The overwhelming crows hovered in the air, and they even covered the dazzling sun. The black feathers fell gently, like a heavy rain of death. Dear viewers, an unprecedented tragedy happened yesterday. Meteor Street is suspected of a virus outbreak. Only a pair of mother and daughter survived the entire street. All the remaining residents, a total of 4,500 people, died. The police are still investigating the specific reasons. Let us mourn the death of 4,500 compatriots on this unfortunate day. All the news is reported exclusively by the Tokyo Daily News. Shier drank all the beer in his hand, picked up the remote control, and directly turned off the TV. 4,500 people, it seems that Tokyo is about to break out a new round of curse. In the overcrowded city of Tokyo, such a horrible act is bound to trigger an explosion of a large number of negative emotions. Advertisement. The cursed spirit bred from it is even more uncommon. Cursed spirit can't be killed, as long as there are humans. Ryuichi arranged his clothes and said casually. As long as there are humans in this world, then cursed spirit will not be killed. Even if it is wiped out for a while, it will be revived in the future. Hey, there are so many idiots. Even urban ghost stories can evolve into cursed spirit. These guys are so stupid that they are hopelessly stupid. Cher grouped the empty wine bottles into a ball and dropped a three-pointer directly. Exhausted in the trash basket at the door. As everyone knows, this sentence seems to wake up Ryuichi. Yeah, weird story, how did I forget? During this time, Ryuichi has mastered a lot of low-level cursed spirits through Dispatch of Detained Spirits, and of course they are all cannon fodder level things. In order to find a high-level cursed spirit, Ryuichi had to move everything from Sugazawa to Tokyo. But for more than 10 days, I didn't expect that there would be less business in Tokyo. Jujutsu Association, aristocratic family, Jujutsu College, all forces are like dumplings, performing their tasks frantically. The number of super cursed spirits is very scarce, and the powerful and wise are hibernating in the dark. People who were just born with no brains, did not wait for themselves to find out, they were eliminated by humans. My own intelligence is still far from being developed by other organizations. It's slow and slow. After being in Tokyo for so long, I can only collect a bunch of small people. Although his own house of everything was established without any hindrance. But Ryuichi always feels that he has been targeted. However, Shier's words just reminded him. If there is no special grade, then I will make special grade. Mankind's fear of illusion is the deepest. Whether it is the eight-headed snake or the tempura that has been used for itself, it was born because of the imaginary fear of mankind. So why can't you create a strange story and create a super imaginary cursed spirit? Chapter 56. Advertisement. A plan faintly appeared in Ryuichi's heart, and a smile was unconsciously put on the corner of his mouth. The smile was obviously warm and jade, and indeed, for some reason, she chilled all over her body. I thought to myself, without knowing, what the unlucky man had offended his nominal boss. By the way, the cursed tool that you asked me to inquire about has news. As if something rang out, he later realized that he raised a finger. Remembering that before, Ryuichi was rare and generous once, and actually gave himself a large sum of money to inquire about cursed tool, and even thought it was a bit strange. However, Shire is a truly smart man. He didn't leave the house of all things because he kept his promise and said that if he worked as an employee for Ryuichi for 3 years, he would not regret it. But he never asks why Ryuichi's body has no curse power, but can have so many layers of jujutsu. I wouldn't ask. In Sugazawa that day, in addition to the cursed spirit who was attached to the body of Dai, there was also a cursed spirit who was not inferior to the opponent. Why would he listen to Ryuichi's orders? Just like Ryuichi, he has never been curious about why he became the son-in-law of someone else's house, and he will never mention the other party's son in front of Shire. There is an unspeakable understanding between these two equally proud and powerful men. I found it. Which one? 8-foot Chongguyu, or 8-foot mirror? Ryuichi asked quickly. The cursed tool that seals the 8 different serpent is an extremely hidden problem in this world, and even the group of Yuanlahui guys felt extremely shocked when they learned that they had named the 8 different serpent. But as a traverser, Ryuichi knew about it in his previous life. This guy, divided into 3 seals, originally wanted to let Share go to the dark forces to explore with the mentality of giving it a try. But I didn't expect it to have something. The grass pheasant sword, the 8-foot Chong Jade, and the 8-foot mirror are the 3 artifacts that sealed the 8 different serpent in previous legends. In this world, there are still 3 cursed tools that have sealed the curse of the serpent. Advertisement. It's a coincidence, and it's inevitable. Oh, are you talking about Bakai Chongguyu? I know that. In the room, apart from Kaisha and Ryuichi, a third young boy's voice suddenly sounded. White-haired sunglasses, unparalleled style. Gojo Satoru suddenly appeared on the sofa at some point, holding Ryuichi in one hand and a piece of cheesecake in the other, and ate unceremoniously. Click. Ryuichi slapped Gojo's arm on his body and glanced again, wondering when the window was opened. Do you really know how to go? In this world, Ryuichi has not many friends, only 1.5. Gojo Satoru counts as 1, Shire counts as half. These 2 8-poles can't fight together, but the guys who have exactly the same thing are very similar in one thing. That is, can't walk through the door. Every time you enter the house, you either turn in through the window or jump in through the skylight. Ha ha ha. Don't pay attention to these details. Speaking of your taste, Fukong's cheesecake is the best in Tokyo. I haven't bought it for a long time in the queue last time. Gojo Satoru thought that he hadn't bought a cake for a whole day in the line last time, while gulping out the cheese for fear that Ryuichi would compete with him. The young master of the Gojo family, really laid back. She started to open a bottle of beer again. It was strange to say that, as if the Gojo family and the Zenin family were born at odds. She the guy who was extremely bored with the Zenin family, was actually here. When facing the people of Gojo's family, he will still show inexplicable hostility. It's okay. It's okay. After all, it's not as busy as the door-to-door son-in-law. Gojo Satoru looked at Shire with a bright smile. The appearance of a big sunny boy, but what he said, really pointed to people's hearts. I heard that your old man's eyes are blind, isn't it true? Advertisement. I also heard that the son-in-law at the door cannot give birth after giving birth to the first child and will be castrated. Is it true? Both of them have a smiling face, full of smiles. If you don't know, I thought I would talk about something happy. Only Ryuichi, who was caught between the 2 people, could feel that the anger of these 2 people was about to explode. He keeps talking, and looks like a dead pig is not afraid of boiling water. A smile keeps on, but the cut is definitely a super black tongue. Before the conflict escalated, Ryuichi hurriedly interrupted the conversation between the 2. Sir, there is no more wine at home. If you don't buy it, the store will close. Damn. As soon as the voice fell, she disappeared on the sofa quickly like a gust of wind. Sure enough, the window was blown by the breeze again. Run so fast, be careful of breaking your leg. Gojo Satoru said this, seemingly worried. But there was a deep expectation in his tone, and he seemed to want to see Shire's broken leg. Okay, let's talk about the news about Ba Kai Chong Kangyu. Ryuichi pulled the topic on the right track again. Didn't the Zenin family tell you? One of the prizes for the final winner of the Imperial contest is Basha Chongguyu. I thought you knew it a long time ago. Gojo Satoru also looked at Ryuichi suspiciously. Chapter 57. Advertisement. Hearing what Gojo Satoru said, Ryuichi was silent for a while. The narrow eyes were slightly narrowed, and the moon-white eyes, like a bright moon in the sky, flickered faintly. In fact, when Ryuichi moved to Tokyo just half a month ago, Zenin's family had already found the door. As a veteran of Fuzang, Ryuichi made no secret of finding his whereabouts. It couldn't be easier. Although the guy who came to visit this time can be said to be very humble and polite, but still unavoidable, the fate of being thrown out of the door by Share. Ryuichi faintly, indeed, heard when that guy was struggling, what the other party was yelling, the Imperial contest, the family honor and so on. But it didn't take it to heart. It's strange. I thought that the Zenin's family would send a group of flies to buzz in his ears, and they were already tozwat the flies. But what I did not expect is, Zenin home really only sent someone here once, and never came again. Hey, no, looking at you like this, you don't know what Queen's examination is. Gojo looked at the thoughtful Ryuichi and opened his mouth very exaggeratedly, putting on a posture of, look at the hillbilly. Ryuichi, who has long been accustomed to Gojo's character, still has a few black lines on his head that he can't avoid. Please die quickly, okay. Ryuichi looked at Gojo Satoru with a smile, but there was indeed an inexplicable danger in his words. Stronger than Gojo Satoru feels a chill in his back. Advertisement. Said repeatedly waving his hands. Haha, I just made a joke, don't mind. Ryuichi gave Gojo angrily, but couldn't figure out why he became friends with such a frivolous fellow. P.S. The author said that the smell is not the same. Do you think you are not frivolous? The Zenin's family seemed to have called me once, but she was thrown out by Cher before he finished speaking. Guessed. It really looks like a security guard did it. Gojo Satoru is really a super black-bellied man. At this time, I don't forget to belittle Cher. Then I'll explain to you what is the Imperial Contest. Gojo took off his sunglasses and placed them on the table, revealing the pair of blue eyes. The so-called Imperial Examination was originally at the end of the Warring States period. The world had just been unified. At that time, there were constant disputes among the major families. At that time, the emperor set the rules to ensure that the country would not be harmed by the fighting between the families. Every 10 years, the major families will compete in front of the king's frame. The ultimate winner will receive the emperor's award and the priority to obtain all resources during the 10 years. It can be said that the royal contest is a battle of honor between families, and it can even determine the prosperity and decline of a family. Quote. Gojo picked up a can of Coke casually, took a few sips, and continued. Until the Edo period, the birth of the Jujutsu division changed the pattern of the original family. The powerful Jujutsu division family outlawed the original family, and the imperial contest became a battle in the sorcerer family. Finally, when the tragedy between the Gojo family and the Zenin family was born, this thousand-year-old contest, under the joint resistance of the two big families, completely disappeared into the dust of history. Hearing this, Ryuichi nodded slightly, as if thinking of something. Since the competition has been cancelled, why is it being brought up again? Advertisement. The Kamo family is the Kamo family. At a recent meeting, it was proposed to reopen the imperial examination, but this time it was not for resources and status, but to urge the younger generation of jujutsu teachers. The Gojo family and the Zenin family, because of the last veteran contest, generations are enemies. Now that someone mentions this again, the two families will naturally not be ambiguous. You should be able to guess the rest. This is the end of the story. Gojo Satoru believes that with Ryuichi's wisdom, there is no need to say more about the next thing. Regardless of the current Jujutsu world, Jujutsu Academy, Jujutsu Association, each working independently, carve up all kinds of outstanding Jujutsu teachers, but once the three real dragons of Zenin, Gojo, and Kamo, their opinions will be unified. In the entire Jujutsu world, there is no other way than recognition. The 3,000-year-old inheritance of the family, what kind of tyrannical power is behind it? This is a thunder pool that no force wants to spy, and dare not surpass it. Interesting, it's Kamo's house after the reopening of the Prince test. Ryuichi's words meant something, and Gojo also smiled slightly and didn't explain it thoroughly. One of the biggest gainers 100 years ago suddenly jumped out and made troubles, which inevitably made people think about it. Gojo Satoru suddenly thought of something, and suddenly looked at Ryuichi and said. Oh, by the way, the Prince test was set before, but the 8-foot Chunguyu was added by Zenin's family later. Interesting, it's really hard work. A deep joke flashed across Ryuichi's eyes. In Tokyo, as long as the Zenin family thinks about it and Sheer wants to inquire about that thing, they can't escape the ears of those guys. In order for Ryuichi to play in the name of the Zenin family can be said to have taken great pains. Chapter 58. Advertisement. In order to gather the 3 magical tools and successfully perform the 8 differentiated snake, it is impossible for Ryuichi to give up the indispensable cursed tool. But if he was allowed to participate in the war under the name of the Zenin family, he felt uncomfortable again. Suddenly, he unexpectedly made his rare appearance a bit upset, his brows frowned unconsciously, and his teeth closed slightly. Perhaps I can see Ryuichi's entanglement. Gojo Satoru put down the Coke, picked up the sunglasses again, took it up, and said. The imperial examination used to be a battle between families, but it is different now, and it is no longer the era of Zongjin. Other forces besides the family are also eligible to participate in the competition. For example, the Jujutsu Academy, which has only emerged in recent years, and the Jujutsu Association. Among them, most of the students of Jujutsu Academy are family backgrounds. Those who are strong and powerful will inevitably receive signs of the family to participate in this battle for the family. The current Tokyo Academy. But still worrying about the candidates to play. Quote. Ryuichi naturally understood the overtones of Gojo Satoru's remarks, but he gave Ryuichi one more choice. Except for Zenin's house, it doesn't really matter where he plays. Anyway, his goal is only one, and that is Bakai Chong Go Yu, and he doesn't care about the rest. Rather than returning to the family that made him not attached at all, it would be better to cooperate with the high school. It's a good idea. Ha ha ha. Yaga teacher has always been thinking about you. If you agree, I'll talk to him later. Gojo Satoru took out his mobile phone and called Yaga Masamiki. Tomorrow, I will go directly to Jujutsu Academy to look for him, just to see how strong the so-called Tokyo #1 is. Well, there is nothing wrong. I will leave, or wait a minute, the gorilla should rush me again, bye. Gojo Satoru stood up, and the curse power burst out all over his body, like a cannonball, wrapped in gusts of wind, and instantly rushed out of the window and disappeared. Advertisement. In the huge room, only Ryuichi was left. Gorilla. It's really a bit like it. Ryuichi listened to Gojo Satoru's words before leaving. Suddenly a chimpanzee in a black suit and big sunglasses appeared in his mind, screaming in B************** G on his chest, and carrying a funny panda schoolbag behind him. This may be the worst time Yagamasamiki was hacked. The autumn breeze is swift and the maple leaves fall. Ryuichi looked at the towering tree outside the window, thoughtfully, the corners of his mouth raised unconsciously, revealing his trademark smile. The current progress of Dispatch of Detained Spirits is only 15%, and there is no way to provide him with any progress in recovering cursed spirits below level 1. In other words, if you want to upgrade Dispatch of Detained Spirits, you must have a large number of first-class cursed spirits, and even more powerful special-class cursed spirits. Baki Orochi, the terrifying ancient demon god super cursed spirit, in the eyes of the world, is an endless nightmare. In Ryuichi's eyes, it is a big sweet pastry, which must not be let go. Cooperating with Jujutsu Academy is also a good way. If you want to come to Jujutsu Academy in Tokyo, where there are many families, it can grow to its current scale. Naturally, the means and power cannot be underestimated. In order to gather Curse of the Eight-Pointed Snake, Ryuichi weighed in his mind and made a decision. I will visit Jujutsu Academy tomorrow. With his mind set, he no longer thinks about it. The toes moved the ground slightly. The shadow beneath him rippled strangely, like a dead water. Woo! A figure slowly emerged from Ryuichi's shadow, white and black-haired, resentful, like countless souls entangled. It was the tempest that Ryuichi had regained. Are called. Advertisement. Special imaginary cursed spirit, Temptress. From the end of the Warring States period, a collection of all ghosts and ghosts invented by monsters. In that era of wars and people's hearts floating, this strange story has left its mark on the hearts of countless people. The men who abandoned their wives in order to survive, and even sold their wives for a few bites of food, feared the Tempest's revenge. The women who are women are afraid of the abandonment of men, and the girls who are maidens are afraid of the legend of the goddess. All these negative emotions are poured on the tempura who does not exist. At a certain time, a certain place. The haze from the nightmares of countless people, the ghost born from the dark and filthy negative emotions. Tempura is born. Just like in the legend, it devours the life of a man and drowns the heartbreaker with long hair. You don't love the concubine body, and the concubine dances for the king. The king said that long hair is beautiful, and the concubine is buried here. When human beings fear something illusory and non-existent, a hypothetical cursed spirit will be born. Rather than searching hard, it is better to create by yourself. But today's era is no longer the era of war. If you want to be born enough to evolve the negative emotions of the super cursed spirit, you can almost completely rely on ordinary strange talk. And even if it is derived, it may be the kind of 3-level cursed spirit similar to the flower coconut in the toilet. It makes no sense at all. Chapter 59. Advertisement. If you can plunge the entire Tokyo into fear, plus the low-level cursed spirit that I already control as a sacrifice, it's possible to derive a special class. Ryuichi put his hands together on his chest and pressed his chin on it, considering the feasibility of the plan. The cursed object of the previous temptress can intensify the negative emotions that have just accumulated, and in less than half an hour, it can be incubated into a special grade. Although its strength is limited, it is also a real special grade. Moreover, generally speaking, unless a specific cursed spirit, the strength of an ordinary cursed spirit is worse than a hypothetical cursed spirit. If it can trigger the negative emotions of hundreds of millions of people in Tokyo at the same time, plus the cursed spirit he currently has, and sacrifice, Ryuichi is 50% sure that he can give birth to a super virtual cursed spirit. But the only problem now is, how can hundreds of millions of people have negative emotions at the same time? The joys and sorrows between people are not the same. It is very simple to make a person have emotions, but once this number rises to the level of 100 million, it will be a completely different concept. A crazy plan suddenly breeds in Ryuichi's heart. It looks like I found a way. Ryuichi stood up, walked to the edge of the window sill, and looked at the ant-like creatures under the floor. He smiled. The smile made people feel chilly and frightened inexplicably. He put his fingers together, slowly raised, and then in the middle of the air, he was constantly dancing, as if he was depicting some obscure and incomprehensible text. A dark whirlpool suddenly appeared behind him, and as Ryuichi's fingers moved faster and faster, the whirlpool's spinning speed became more and more crazy. Dispatch of Detained Spirits Dispersion. Ryuichi's eyes condensed, his brows frivolous, and his fingers were a little bit empty. At the moment, he only heard a strange sound of silhouette. The vortex burst out. Hundreds of curse burst out from the shattered vortex, rushing out frantically in all directions. Some of these cursed spirits are covered with eyeballs, some are covered with arms up and down, some are stained with blood, and some are like a puddle of mud. Advertisement. But I don't know why. Behind this group of weird cursed spirits, either black and white shadows loomed faintly, or it was a fascinating illusion with 9 tails constantly dancing. Base. They dissipated into the sky of Tokyo extremely fast, and quickly left from the Ryuichi window. This scene is like the night of 100 ghosts, and like a demon coming to the world. If a weak jujutsu master saw such a scene at this moment, he might be surprised to drop to the ground, shaking his whole body. Ants often kill elephants. What's more, there are so many cursed spirits. With the disappearance of Hyakudo cursed spirit, Ryuichi returned to the sofa. Rumble. Tokyo, which was originally a clear sky, is now shrouded in endless dark clouds. The sky is constantly exploding and thundering, like Lei Gong is furious. Ryuichi in the room gently shook a goblet that he had taken out from nowhere. The red wine in the glass, the aroma of the wine, spread the whole room. The electric light flickered, illuminating the originally dark room. It was also reflected on Ryuichi's almost perfect side face. He lightly sipped the blood-red wine in the glass, with a slight smile on his mouth. The moon-white eyes reflected bright red ripples. In the night of the 100 ghosts, some people are happier than the ghosts, and some sit on the throne and see all beings as ants. Advertisement. Ryuichi, on the other hand, looks like watching an upcoming drama, with a playful and cold expression. Tokyo, Zenin's home. A man with white hair, dressed in a kimono, was lying lazily on the tatami, the maple leaves around him slowly falling, and the courtyard continued to play a melodious tune. It seems to bring everything back to the fascinating Edo period. The man kept pouring the wine in the wine gourd into his mouth, even if it was stained with clothes, he didn't care. Like a hawker, bohemian. His head full of silver hair leaned back, 2 long beards hung on his chin, and his slender eyebrows swayed leisurely. Makes him look a bit drunk. Master Zebi, do you really want to put the cursed tool like Bashachonguyu in the imperial examination? That is the cursed tool that the old patriarch personally put into the secret vault. Ying Yi looked excited, his face flushed. Opposite him, the drunken man is the current Zenin family owner in the big 3 sorcerer families, Zenin Naomi. Known as the fastest man in the Jujutsu world. When Zenin Naomi heard Ying Yi's words, he glanced at Ying drunkly for a few times, and then buttoned his ears. A thing that is placed in the secret room, which is about to become moldy, is also regarded as a treasure by you, really, so, small, not like our Zenin family. Oh, after saying this, Zenin Naomi knocked his head as if suddenly remembering something, and said apologetically. Sorry, forgot that you are not of Zenin's blood, ha ha ha, hoo hoo. After saying this, Zenin Zebi actually fell directly on the tatami and snored, as if completely asleep. Chapter 60. Advertisement. Master Patriarch. Ying Yi's face was flushed like blood, but she still yelled unwillingly. However, Zenin Naomi, who had been lying on the tatami, seemed to have completely fallen asleep, snoring softly. Ying Yi gritted her teeth, trembling slightly. The teeth were shaking uncontrollably because of anger. But in the end, he had no choice but to kneel down on the ground again, and then withdrew from the courtyard. The contempt in Zenin's words, he heard it, and he heard it really. He is not a member of the Zenin family. Although he can earn respect through his strength, Keigaiki clearly does not have the qualifications. In the eyes of Zenin Naomi, such a real powerhouse and authority, he is a downright small character. Even no matter how hard I work, I can't compare to those Zenin family members. Even the opponent's strength may not be that strong, but as long as he is named Zenin, the opponent seems to be much more noble than him in an instant. When he was young, he worked day and night in order to one day stand openly in front of everyone, but everything he gave was like a joke in front of the 2 words Zenin. He will never forget the moment when he offered to represent the Zenin family to participate in the royal contest. The top of Zenin's family looked at himself with that look like a dog, as if to say more. Are you worthy? That eye hurt deeply, and Ying Yi's self-esteem was extremely sensitive because of being trafficked by his parents since he was a child. Bang. A***. Why look at Lao Su like this? Lao Su is obviously 100 times stronger than this group of trash. Back in the dark room he had secretly constructed in the room, Keigaiki vented his anger on a puppet, using all his strength with every punch. Ah, I am the most talented person in the Zenin family. Advertisement. Bang. Accompanied by Keigaiki's angry blow, the overwhelmed doll instantly burst into 3 segments, flew into the air, and finally fell to the ground feebly. Ha. Ying gasped, her eyes flushed, like a crazy beast. Sudden. Behind him, a black mist slowly emerged, with endless treacherousness, continuously condensing in a corner of the room. The cold voice resounded in Ying Yi's ear like a ghost in the netherworld. Without Zenin Ryuichi, all of this should be yours. Without Zenin Ryuichi, you should have shined in the imperial examination, and you were awarded the name of Zenin. If there is no him. Ying Yi's eyes became more scarlet, his forehead violently, his whole body trembled unstoppable with anger, and his hands were constantly shaking, like a madman. Yes, it's because of that waste. A waste without any jujutsu. He is a liar. Fraud. Then, do you want to kill Zenin Ryuichi? Quack. A shrill cry of crows from nowhere, echoed in the secret room for a long time. Am I right? Zenin Ryuichi rubbed his nose and looked in front of his eyes with some suspicion. Advertisement. Before. A gate that looks very majestic and broad is old with history, as if the world had never moved before. Numerous red long ropes were intertwinedly hooked on both sides of the gate. 2 towering pillars stood on the spot, with some mysterious characters carved on them. When people see the text, they only feel that their whole body is clear, as if all the troubles of the earthly world have been erased by some mysterious power at this moment. It looks like a majestic temple, or some kind of religious council. But no matter what Ryuichi looked at, he didn't realize that this is actually Tokyo Prefectural Jujutsu High School, hereinafter referred to as Tokyo High School. Before crossing, Ryuichi also watched Jujutsu Kaisen's anime, but it did not show the full picture of the school. I thought it was no different from an ordinary school, but I didn't expect it to be so much different. Had it not been for Gojo Satoru's curse, he would have thought he had come to a monastery. But, as expected, this school is not easy. Ryuichi looked at the mysterious writing on the stone pillar. I knew in my heart that this text seems ordinary, but it has magical power, the moment any ordinary person sees this text. The negative emotions in the body will be purified once, thereby weakening the progress of the birth of cursed spirit. Although this effect is negligible, it is also trivial. At least it reflects the attitude of Tokyo High School towards cursed spirit with only one exception. Even from the root cause. Just as Ryuichi tried to draw the gap between the words with his finger pen, a familiar figure appeared at the gate of the academy. The tall figure of Yaga Masamiki waved his arms far away, looking very excited. Ryuichi classmate, you are here. Ha 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 ha, I knew that you must come back to our college. Masamiki's bold voice shook Ryuichi's ears. Chapter 61. Advertisement. Masamiki's bold voice shook Ryuichi's ears. Ms. Masamiki, Satoru should have told you. The purpose of my coming is to take part in the imperial examination. As for going to school or something, I really have no interest. Yaga Masamiki scratched his head in embarrassment when he heard Ryuichi's incomprehensible style. All the same, hee hee. Walk and talk. Masamiki made a pleased gesture, and Ryuichi stepped onto the campus of Tokyo High School. As soon as he walked through the campus, Ryuichi felt all around him, as if he was surrounded by a very mysterious spell. Student Ryuichi, next, according to the regulations, only students from the academy can participate in the imperial examination, but I also understand your situation, so I don't want to make any distressing moves. Yaga Masamiki is still thinking about what Gojo Satoru said yesterday. The guy Ryuichi is actually very easy to get along with, as long as he doesn't make trouble, he is a good talker. These words were tightly remembered by Masamiki. So he didn't even want to take advantage of Ryuichi's need for Yashachong Guyu to threaten Ryuichi to join Jujutsu Academy. After all, it's not a good thing to offend a superior. Ms. Masamiki really is a smart person, and doing things with smart people is a relief. Ryuichi nodded in satisfaction, he was very helpful to Masamiki's words. Ha ha ha, after all, are you a good friend of my beloved student? You saved my student's life. The rules are dead and people are alive. Ryuichi classmate, I will apply for a day certificate for you next. You will participate in the imperial examination as a day student in Tokyo College. If you can win successfully, in addition to Ba Kai Chong Go Yu, you can also make a request, and our college will meet you. Advertisement. Masamiki looked at Ryuichi very seriously. Thinking very well, but from Masamiki's tone, it seems that I will lose. Although Masamiki's tone has always been so peaceful, after talking about the conditions for Ryuichi's victory, it did fluctuate very slightly. Naturally, this can't escape Ryuichi's eyes. At this time, the two of them came to a back mountain and walked slowly into the pavilion to take their seats. On the desktop, 2 cups of tea have been placed on it early, with a slight smoke and a long tea fragrance. It seems that there is a special flavor here. A trace of bitterness appeared on Yaga Masamiki's face. Student Ryuichi, you and Wu are good friends, and one of the few people he considers to be of the same kind. You should know his strength. As a student, although his character makes me feel a bit of a headache, no matter what aspect of his growth, I am proud of him. He is the most talented jujutsu teacher I have seen in the past few decades. As a teacher, I am proud of him, but playing for the Gojo family, as an opponent for the time being, made me feel desperate. 6 eyes combined with no lower limit technique, coupled with his innate fighting talent and amazing mind, presents the strength that makes everyone stand by. Every word Yaga Masamiki said seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. Only those who have personally experienced the strength of Gojo Satoru will understand how terrifying the 16-year-old boy is. As a result, Masamiki never thinks that anyone can beat Gojo Satoru. This competition, in his opinion, was almost a solo show for Gojo Satoru to be crowned king. Advertisement. The wood is beautiful in the forest, and the wind will destroy it, but what if that tree has been a sacred tree from the beginning of its birth? All roads lead to Rome, but some people live in Rome all their lives. If you compare the summit of the Jujutsu world to Rome, then Gojo Satoru was born and was at the top of existence. His birth completely changed the pattern of this world. The balance between Jujutsu division, and cursed spirit was completely broken. With one's own power, the disorder is transformed into order. Gojo Satoru is such an existence. Student Ryuichi, you are very strong. Although I have not seen your strength with my own eyes, I can feel that Gojo's attitude towards you can be regarded as similar by him. Apart from Sha Yuji, you are the only one, but you think, do you really beat the strongest? Yaga Masamiki looked at Ryuichi grimly. It is true that Ryuichi has the ability to kill super in a flash, and also has a very strong body, such a talent, coupled with jujutsu, which he has never shown. Among the younger generation, no one seems to be able to beat him, but in the face of that invincible, Masamiki does not think that Ryuichi can defeat the opponent. Hearing this, Ryuichi didn't say anything. He gently picked up the teacup and took a few sips. Then he raised his head and looked at Yaga Masamiki on the opposite side, showing an inexplicable smile. Ms. Masamiki, is the procedure complicated for my day card? Huh, it's not complicated, it's already done. Masamiki was taken aback by Ryuichi's words. Haha, that's good, don't delay me getting Guyu. In the tone, it seemed that Guyu was already in his pocket. Chapter 62. Advertisement. Ryuichi classmate. Didn't you understand, your opponent is teacher. Yaga Masamiki was interrupted by Ryuichi before he finished speaking. I saw Ryuichi put the teacup back in again, looked at Masamiki, and said unhurriedly. Do you think I should be afraid of him? Do you think I should be afraid of invincible? Haha. Then why don't you ask, Gojo Satoru, are you afraid of me? Tell you a secret, in fact I am also invincible. Ryuichi changed from the old laziness, his eyes exploded with amazing aura. An aura that resembles the subversion of the heavens and the earth slowly rises on his body, like top of the sky. Click. Yaga Masamiki looked at Ryuichi's figure, without noticing that the teacup in his hand fell. At that moment, he seemed to have seen two young boys standing on the top of the mountain dome, looking down at all living beings. It is the sadness of this generation to be born in the same era as you. Yaga Masamiki sighed with emotion. He had never thought that there was such a genius besides Gojo Satoru in this world. This is the true pride of heaven. It is well deserved. The top of the mountains. If there is nothing wrong, I will leave first, Masamiki-sensei, see you later. Ryuichi glanced at Masamiki, who was extremely sensational, and tapped his feet gently, and the orchid bloomed on his body, rising out of thin air, like a meteor, turning into light and shadow, and disappearing into the sky above the academy in a flash. After a long time, Yaga Masamiki was still sitting in place, as if still immersed in a certain mood. Advertisement. You have an opponent, Gojo. Ha ha ha, that's great, so I won't be too lonely. In midair, Ryuichi's body is faintly light, and the night shadow is shining under her feet. Seeing the busy crowd under her feet like little ants, the corners of her mouth can't help but lift up. Gojo is invincible, fun. I want to try it too. Dot 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 dot. The night in Fuzhang is not as dark as it was in the past. With the rapid development of technology, the night has long become the world of neon lights. The colorful lights make this world even more drunk. In this extremely high-pressure city, people are like beasts in human skin. Once they find an opportunity to release their desires, they will be like a male dog in rut, and will be cast aside with etiquette and shame. Bah, it's so exciting. At the entrance of the alley, Yamamoto turned and left with a lewd smile, without even looking at the crying pair girl with Rain behind him. Humming a little tune, he fled the scene of the crime happily. I don't know how many times he has committed the crime. This group of ladies will not call the police. He understands too well that things like this in Fuzhang are simply commonplace. Sometimes he even works side by side with his colleagues. I just don't know what happened to my colleague recently, and he actually said that there is something ghostly. Grass. If there is such a thing, what was he doing when Lao Su and his family were killed? The lights tonight seem to be particularly dim. I don't know if it was his own illusion. Yamamoto tightened his clothes, and the autumn wind was a bit desolate. The dead leaves on the tree whirled a few times in the air, and then slowly fell. Advertisement. Woo, ooh. A burst of ghost crying and wolf howling suddenly sounded slowly in Yamamoto's ear, as if there were countless ghosts crying in disintegration. My lord, let me go. I have not reached the end of my life. I have not reached the end. Monster. Monster. Two tall men appeared in front of Yamamoto, one in black and white in weird clothes. Opposite them, the man and woman knelt down. Constantly crying and wailing, as if begging for the two men. What's up? Cosplay. Yamamoto follows fashion closely, mainly because he always starts with girls who play cos, so he understands a little bit. Seeing such a scene, he actually got a little bit of thinking about eating melons. No, the hour is here. It's time to go. Under the night, I couldn't see the face of the man in black, but Yamamoto didn't think it was annoying just by listening to him. This tone was even more horizontal than that of Oda, who was in arrears. My lord, I beg you, let me be more generous, and be more generous. Old and young on the ground, both men and women, kowtowed their heads on the ground frantically. Seeing that posture, if the two of them disagree, they will die here alive. Tisk, it's useless. The debtor is a urging ghost, don't talk about human favors. Yamamoto thought secretly, hiding behind the lamp post. Suddenly, he found that under the light, everyone had no shadows. He quickly glanced at his feet, and the dark shadows were shaking faintly on the ground. An unpleasant feeling suddenly rose in my heart, and a chill rushed from the sole of his foot to his forehead, only feeling that the blood all over his body seemed to be frozen. Sudden, a cold and sticky thing clung to his back. Under fear, he felt as if he had been pressed the pause button, unable to control his body and dared not move. Chapter 63. Advertisement. The thing was like a soft tongue, with a cold touch, walking around his back continuously. A bloody smell gradually appeared, and it became heavier. Here told you to die for 3 watchers. Which one will leave you to watch 5? Hurry up. The white-clothed man waved his left hand, and a strange stick with countless pieces of white paper hit the group of guys fiercely. The group of men and women on the ground dissipated instantly. Ghost. There was only this last thought left in Yamamoto's mind. He wanted to run away, but his body seemed to be out of control, and he could only stand on the spot. Praying that the other party did not find himself, beads of sweat the size of a bean are constantly appearing on his forehead. It seems that there is still one missing. The white-clothed man murmured quietly, while the black-clothed man stood there without saying a word. Where is the difference? Where is the difference? The white-clothed man's voice became smaller and smaller, but it sounded strangely in Yamamoto's heart. That voice repeated in Yamamoto's mind over and over again. Repeat it over and over again. The icy touch behind him kept wandering, and the creepy voice in his mind repeated over and over again. Tears accompanied the nasal mucus on his face unsuspectingly. He was clearly conscious, but his powerless feeling of being unable to do anything almost broke him. Help me, whoever saves me, he screamed frantically in his heart. Help me. The ear-splitting jade dragon roar spread throughout the street. Yamamoto was surprised to find that he was able to make a sound, and the control of his body returned to his own hands again. He suppressed his fear and just wanted to leave this weird place. Hastily turned around. But, a pale face appeared in front of him the moment he turned his head, almost touching him face to face. Advertisement. Yamamoto saw that among the people, his long tongue was almost drooping to the ground. It turned out to be worse for you. A faint voice rang in Yamamoto's ear. Click. The cold and sticky feeling behind him disappeared, but something fell to the ground. Guru. I don't know if he was frightened too much. Yamamoto, who was clearly close to collapse, turned his head stiffly and looked at the ground behind him. It didn't matter to look at it, but it directly frightened his fragile mind to a complete breakdown. On the ground, a whole piece of human skin was quietly spread on the ground, but Yamamoto's own appearance appeared on the human skin. Impermanence ecstasy. Ghosts desperate for life, impermanence of life and death, ghostly return. Yamamoto's head seemed to explode, leaving only endless chaos. However, from the angle that ordinary people could not see, the curse power that Yamamoto burst out at the moment of collapse was almost no weaker than a second level. All of Jujutsu's curse power. That curse hovered in the air and finally disappeared without a trace. This person is like this. He fell down like this. What is he talking about? Inaudible, it seems to be impermanence or something. In the early morning, a few pedestrians passing by here were watching a naked man. He curled up, leaning against the corner, without a trace of brilliance in his eyes, like a madman. Whenever anyone approached him, he would yell crazy. Words that people don't understand. Come on, this is the bad guy. An ant glanced at the man with disdain. Sister, how do you know? The passerby asked curiously. When someone spoke up, the ant became more proud, waved mysteriously, and whispered. Advertisement. Have you ever heard of black and white impermanence, impermanence ecstasy, fierce ghost desperate life, that thing specially takes away the soul of the wicked? Really or not, how old is the auntie, she's so awkward. The ant who heard some doubts looked very angry and decided to explode the fierce material at the bottom of the box. That can still be false, let me tell you, this kind of lunatics have appeared in various places in Tokyo during this time, and when the police investigated, guess what, these bastards are all bad guys, what are they doing? Do everything. This is not nonsense. My son is a policeman and he told me personally. Oh my god, is there really a ghost? Then this is a good god. Yes, protect our safety. Good job. If this is called a ghost, I hope there are more ghosts. Just when everyone was discussing because of the ant's words, a young man suddenly raised his hand and said like a question. But every time the impermanent ghost appears, it means that someone has been killed. Even though he gets rid of the wicked person, does it mean the appearance of the impermanent ghost symbolizes? What about death? The boy's innocent tone made everyone feel cold for some reason, and a chill faintly radiated from the bone marrow. The crowd is now scattered with birds and beasts. However, whether it is the audience who eats melons, or the ant who tells. In my heart, two completely different voices suddenly sounded, overlapping together, like a wake-up call from the Yin Sao de Fu. Impermanence ecstasy, ghosts desperate for life, impermanence of life and death, ghostly return. In a trance, two figures, one black and one white, seemed to appear before their eyes, and disappeared in a flash. Chapter 64. Advertisement. During the Joshin Rebellion in 1944, several magical powers appeared out of thin air. Each type of 8 mysterious arts is a breakthrough in a certain type of exercise method, which can be described as the ultimate of this type of exercise method, and has an absolute advantage over the same type of ability. Therefore, as soon as it appeared, it was contested by various big sects. Realize that the truth of 8 mysterious arts is hidden in the heavens. Due to the existence of a certain restriction, no one who has realized 8 mysterious arts can reveal this secret to the outside world in any form. It is not clear whether this prohibition originated from the prohibition possessed by the heavenly master, or a miraculous skill that was realized without roots. However, because the names of other strange skills are all revealed by Feng Tianyang, and Feng Tianyang has not yet realized the unique skills when Feng Tianyang goes down the mountain, what Feng Tianyang and the people of the world know as 8 mysterious arts. According to Wang also speculated, the birth of 8 mysterious arts is probably related to the transcendent founders of certain genres. Origin of Qi. It is not clear yet. Zhang Wei once called it the end of surgery. Zhang Wei never taught origin of Qi to Zhang Chulin, nor did he disclose any relevant information to him. Before Zhang Wei died, he gave Bao Bao Feng a Qi Tuan, after which Bao Bao Feng named it Old Nong Gong, and gave it to Zhang Chulin. Lao Nong Gong has been proven to be a god. The relationship with origin of Qi is unknown. Dispatch of Detained Spirits. The ultimate in witchcraft and shaman abilities. Ignore the will of the spirit and force it to obey and use it for himself, whether it is a dead spirit or an elf, and can invite multiple spirits on the body at the same time. The Wang family has the full version of Dispatch of Detained Spirits, that is, serving the spirit, which can eat the spirit and gain the ability permanently, but the strength is not as strong as the spirit. Feng Tianyang and Zheng Zibu were arrested by the Wang family after leaving the 36 thieves ahead of time. They were forced to hand over the Dispatch of Detained Spirits and vowed not to pass on the full version of Dispatch of Detained Spirits to their descendants. After the move, after Luo Tianda went up to Feng Xingtong to lose to the king, Feng Zhenghao said on the surface that he was loyal to the king's family, but he might actually be waiting for the opportunity to take revenge. User. Feng Tianyang. Feng Zhenghao. Feng Xingtong. Wang Ai. Kings. Tong Tian Talisman. The ultimate ability of Fulu. Normal talisman can take at least several hours to complete, but Tong Tian Talisman can draw talisman freehand, ignoring all restrictions. The celestial master commented on Lu Jin. The talismans that are regarded as treasures by all sects are sprinkled like beans by you. Zheng Zibu and Feng Tianyang left the 36 thieves early, and were besieged by various forces. The comics suggest that the Lu family and the Wang family participated in the campaign, and after escaping with serious injuries, they granted this ability to Lu Jin before dying. Advertisement. At the time of Luo Tiantai, Lu Jin stated that Tong Tian Talisman was awarded to the winner, but Zhang Chulin, who won, gave up the inheritance, so Zhang Lingyu accepted Tong Tian Talisman under Zhang Zhui's instruction. User. Zheng Zibu. Lu Jin. Zhang Lingyu. Feng Hu Chi Men. The ultimate in odd doors. You can move 4 sets at will, and you can control the time and the chance in the game. Therefore, you don't need to stand in the corresponding house to use the corresponding spells, and you don't need to pay attention to the time issue that the general sorcerer must take into account. In addition, there is also the ability to control time chaos Gen 2, which can put oneself or the other party into a slower time and space, making it slower and almost stagnant, but in this state, it cannot directly attack the other party. After the Joshan rebellion, Zhou Sheng secretly returned to Wudang Mountain and handed the Fenghu map to his colleague. Zhou Meng's senior Lu and his younger brother Hong Yin had practiced Feng Hu Chi Men, but Lu failed and fell into the interior. Hong Yin was trapped in the cave. By chance, Wang also entered the cave where Hong Yin was located. After Hong Yin discovered that his spirit would not fall into the interior scene, he taught Feng Hu Chi Men to Wang Yi. User. Zhou Sheng. Wang Yi. Brother Lu. Hong Yin. Divine Armament 100 Refinements. The ultimate of mixing equipment. It can complete the artifacts in 3 to 5 seconds, and can complete the refining within a few days. The general refining master can only make a limited number of artifacts in his life and mass production of magic artifacts. With this ability, Ma Shanong built a self-cultivation furnace which was helped by his sister. Mabin passed on at home. Ma Shanong passed to Chu Rang and Zug Qing. Zug Qing gave up Divine Armament 100 Refinements for Waho Kimen. User. Ma Benzai. Ma Shanong. Advertisement. Enmity. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, also known as the Sage Pirate. Lu Ku, refers to 6 organs, which refers to the 6 energy-absorbing organs of the human body. The digestive system built on this basis can instantly decompose any substance inhaled and convert nutrients into qi through the circulation. By attaching the saliva to the user's skin, it can have a fatal corrosive effect on all objects, especially organic matter. Because the user continues to take in the nutrients perfectly, he will hardly age and his energy will be more vigorous. In addition, the user's breath can be completely disappeared, and the specific principle is unknown. Baron was lost in a rescue operation organized in Kanchenjunga. After that, he met Ruan Feng who was living in seclusion in the mountains. The specific process is unknown and was awarded the 6 Immortal Thief Treasury. User. Ruan Feng. Baron. Deluo Cave Temple. The abilities have not been given in the comics. When Ji Junting was besieged by Shuzuman, he disappeared out of nowhere, and some of those who besieged him gradually went crazy after that. Unknown, Ji Junting never reappeared after his disappearance. User. Ji Junting. Full hand. That is, the Liu family's spirit technique can detect polygraphs, read and delete memories, and even rewrite cognition. However, Liu Jiaming's spirit arts only showed blue hands except for Liu Liang, who was suspected of getting a red hand, unlike the president of Yaoxing Society, who can use red and blue hands at the same time, guessing that blue hands modify souls and red hands modify the body, hence the name full hand. Unknown estimated to be related to both lives. User. Duan Muying. Liu Jia, president of Yaoxing Club. 8 mysterious arts is more than 8. 8 mysterious arts, as the name implies, are 8 of the most top-notch skills. Each of the 8 mysterious arts is a breakthrough in a certain type of exercise. It can be said to be the ultimate of this type of exercise and has an absolute advantage over the same type of ability. Just like Feng Hu Qi Men has an absolute advantage over Zhuge Qi Men, this advantage is absolute. The 8 unique skills are Zhang Weiyi's Origin of Qi, Feng Tianyang's Ji Yu Ling, Zheng Zibu's Tong Tian Talisman, Zhou Sheng's Feng Hu Qi Men, Divine Armament 100 Refinements, and Ruan Feng's 6. Immortal Thief Treasury, Deluo Cave Temple, full hand of the Liu family. In fact, in addition to the above 8 stunts, there is actually another stunt. This stunt is the rootless god Lingming. The process of making gods. If you want to know how it matters, you must start with the purpose of the Joshin Rebellion. The real purpose of the Joshin Rebellion we said last time was the 36 thieves' plan to create gods, and we can see 8 mysterious arts. Which item is taken out as a magical machine, and the purpose of the 36 thieves is not the original purpose is to give 8 mysterious arts to one person, and there is a rootless name of the god, but the last 36 the thief found that 8 mysterious arts is too powerful for one person to bear, so he chose the 8 most powerful people to inherit. In the future, he is looking for other ways to create gods again. This may be 8. The relationship between mysterious arts and the Joshin Rebellion. Chapter 65. Advertisement. To be honest, I actually didn't want to write this testimonial, but I was upset and uncomfortable. Surprise at the back. I just want to talk about it with my brothers. In fact, I was writing this book and I was very entangled. My friends didn't support me in writing this subject. There are a total of 3 books on the shelves of this topic, one is broken, one unique, and one has changed the world. To be honest, this little brother really has no confidence in this heart. But watching the messages from my brothers, I felt relieved, especially on the day when you shouted, "Birthday is awesome." I thoroughly decided to put this book on the shelves, and I promise that the follow-up plot of this book will definitely be right. Wonderful. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. The first order of a book is almost absolute. Can I continue to write it down? Brothers, as long as there are 500 subscriptions for more than 16,000 V, the younger brother can bite his teeth and insist on writing down, and bring better works to everyone. I hope everyone can give me a support, a subscription for a few cents, but in the author here is indeed extremely important, because it is not only related to our food, clothing, housing and transportation, but also the recognition of me by readers. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. In fact, the author doesn't want to ask everyone to subscribe, and there is nothing to buy. After all, the road is my own choice. Did you force me to find some novels, but I think it is to get the approval of my brothers. If you don't like it, who can stick to it? The pressure of life is on my head, the contempt of my friends, the nagging of my family, everything makes my little brother breathless. How I want to be like my protagonist, freely and unrestrainedly, watching what I want to see, and listening to what I want. But the little brother is immortal after all, and he wants to eat and drink Lazard. Want firewood, rice, oil and salt. Do I refresh over and over again, looking at my backstage over and over again? Now I feel like looking at my son's college entrance examination. Nervous and perturbed. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. So please make a first order. Ask for a first order. Ask for a first order. This is really important. I want to eat while standing. Not ashamed. The first set of grades has a decisive effect on an author. I promise that I will bring you more novel plots in the future, and I will respect the feelings of every reader. So please give me a subscription. Maybe it's just a few cents, but it's really important to me. Say it last. Advertisement. First order. First order. First order. After seeing the readers here, I am here to send you 2 short stories I once wrote about the revival of the gods, and the Western gods tore up the treaty and began to attack Eastern human civilization. Wind. Gale. There was a huge gap in the sky. Behind the gap was a deep and boundless darkness. The angels who once represented the holiness violently destroyed the steel forests. Humans finally understand that the existence of science does not mean the disappearance of gods. They go from excitement to fear, and then suddenly think of those Chinese gods whom they described as feudal superstitions. They prayed, they knelt down, but they didn't respond, from prayer to verbal abuse, as if they're believers abandoned by the gods of China, and as if these gods never appeared. Damn, these guys, bullets can't hurt him at all. Countless light feathers fell from the sky, and a soldier wearing a camouflage was hiding behind a piece of rubble. The bullet in his hand was gone. When the bullet was about to hit the angel, it was obstructed by a light curtain, and fell to the ground feebly. Although I can't hurt them, at least I know that they also need to protect themselves. If we break the light curtain, it's still unknown whether we can hurt him. An older soldier next to him continues to shoot like the sky. Also, this is a celestial dynasty, and it's not the turn of these birdmen to be so unscrupulous. The angel looked at the ground indifferently. What he was looking at was just ants, and between waving his hands, the once glorious city turned into ruins. The running figure suddenly rippled in his heart, why those weak females would desperately protect their cubs. Why those males, who are obviously fragile and vulnerable, are still using their weak weapons to fight back against him. He is a little annoyed. He wants to completely destroy this place, and then go to his master and ask the questions in his heart. Does Master Gabriel value this city too much? He looked at the more and more compatriots around him and raised his own question. Even you, the guy called the King of Heroes, are here. So you can only be an angel of authority. Suddenly a blonde man appeared next to him. He had no wings behind him, so he volleyed into the air. Here are you guys that I can't imagine. The angels never attacked since they caused damage the first time they appeared. They seem to be waiting for something to appear. Although the gunfire is still roaring, they have not caused any harm to those high above guys so far. But as the order they received to cover the people's retreat, even if they sacrifice their lives. Lao Wang, don't you mean that there is no one in the school? Why is my son's head teacher still there? Teacher Zhao, come here soon, the sergeant shouted at the teacher, but the man just looked at him and smiled. He was wearing a white shirt. He made a hush gesture to the troops in an understatement. Among the ruins, he was so conspicuous, his appearance was very ordinary, but the moment he appeared, the soldiers' eyes were all focused on him. I don't know where there is a rhythm. It is a sound they have never heard before, and it seems that they have heard it at the beginning of their birth. Whoosh! With a quick sound, an angel suddenly fell from the sky, and the soldiers suddenly recovered. The angel who could not be hurt by bullets was killed, and it was an arrow that killed him. It was 100 years of war. Abandoned bow and arrow. What's the situation? The middle-aged non-commissioned officer was stunned, and he heard a heavy song. He couldn't understand the lyrics, but the meaning of the lyrics seemed to him to remember. The meaning of the lyrics is that the old Qin will go through the national disaster together, the blood will not drain, and the death will not turn around. Old Qin, I will restore the mountains and rivers, the blood will not drain, and the death will not cease. Wind. Wind. Gale. Countless soldiers wearing battle armor appeared from behind Teacher Zhao, and the bows and arrows and the light feather began to collide. There were a few more people in eunuch robes beside Teacher Zhao. They carried a sedan chair with a 5-clawed black dragon on it. He slowly lay in the sedan chair with his mouth smiling, his eyes full of boundlessness. The cold. Someone has committed a crime against China, what should I do? His voice was not loud, but everyone had to listen carefully. Blood, debts and blood, only death can be reported. The soldiers beside him began to roar, and the wind howled, as if because of his anger. Between heaven and earth, only the peculiar rhythm remained. The first round of confrontation between the two sides stopped, and the blonde man in the sky laughed loudly. Here is here, finally here. GU is back, leave the rest to GU, and wait to protect your people. The lazy voice was beyond doubt, and the middle-aged officer gritted his teeth and waved his hand and began to evacuate the battlefield. That's Qin song, that's a war song, the middle-aged non-commissioned officer said softly. Zhao Zheng was an angel, and then said that the giant spirit god killed the West. Now it's you, Qin Shiwang Yingzhang. Ha ha ha. Emperor Zulong, you are finally here. I thought you were old and faint and afraid to fight. The hero king laughed and couldn't stop fighting. Let's go. Advertisement. The savage barbarians dare to stand in front of your majesty, and rant, criminal minister, willing to fight a battle. A man with a gold armor knelt down in front of the Emperor Qin. He. General Bai, you really think these guys are here to fight? They just came to fight, but, Qin Huang suddenly sat up. Where do you think this is? And whoever did you think was lonely took him in vain. Head. The last general leads the order. Bai Qi soared into the sky with a sword and was caught in his hand. Behind him, there are countless souls who are angry, the corpse mountains are piled up, and the blood is overflowing. The angels who seem to have no emotions retreat and go straight to the Hero King. But the Hero King looked at him with a smile, and suddenly there was a collision between a figure and a sword in front of him, and a touch of playfulness appeared in his white eyes. Hey, Zhu Long, you all know what I'm here for, so there is a need to do so. A woman withdrew back to the Hero King, Bai Qi also volleyed and looked towards Shi Huang. Any god can initiate war and provocation against China, but it's up to you when it ends. Emperor Qin stood up, and a five-clawed black dragon hovered from the sky. Wind, gale, as if feeling the anger of Emperor Qin, countless soldiers shouted murderously. Bai Qi held the saber in his hand and slashed towards the Hero King, and the woman stepped up against the sword. This time she did not stop the knife. The king once said that the barbarian daughter is not worthy of being infected with the blood of China, but it is a pity that you are a beauty. The knife cut off her arm, but in a flash, she returned to the same condition as before, and the confrontation between the two was getting faster and faster, leaving only two black lights intersecting in the air. Emperor Qin lazily looked at the war in the sky and suddenly seemed to have heard some news. Come back, Abai, the two people who were still fighting, suddenly separated. Bai Qi's body was covered with thin sword wounds, but the woman was unscathed. Bai Qi's eyes were red and the corners of his mouth wore a wicked smile. He didn't say that he was standing behind Shi Huang. You are doing it. Such a plan. Interesting. I took it from Da Qin. Without waiting for what the Hero King said, the Black Army retreated like a torrent, and the moment Qin army disappeared, countless angels began to fall from the sky. It's terrible, so you guys are just sacrifices, the Hero King murmured. He turned and left, where the woman was still floating. She looked at her hands. The hands began to crumble, and finally spread to the whole body, as if she had never appeared before. She dissipated in the heaven and earth. Any creature can provoke a war and provocation against Da Qin against China, but Da Qin has the final say when the war ends and when you surrender. Open black lens bracket giant spirit close black lens bracket. The war has begun. Western gods broke this unchanging treaty. A large number of angels of power came to the world, and the beautiful and holy angels in myths and legends slaughtered mortals are so cruel. Guns and ammunition were once such unfavorable weapons in front of the gods. The feeble, bright and beautiful light feathers wantonly reap the lives of mortals. Mother, Monkey King will definitely come to save us, right? The little boy looked up at his mother. The corners of his mouth were chapped, but there was a light called hope in his eyes. The boy's mother smiled and touched the boy's head. To the great sage, she will definitely come to save us. But her eyes were already dimmed. The moment the angel appeared, she thought it was her piety that touched God, but her God brings only destruction, the collapse of tall buildings, and the chaos of order. They can only hide from Tibet like a mouse in the sewer. The boy's father is a People's Liberation Army, but she can't even imagine that they can face God. Do what? Pray. Who can I pray to? A loud noise. The building above them was exploded, and an expressionless angel appeared in front of them. The woman hugged the boy tightly. Although she had imagined how to deal with this situation, when the angel actually appeared in front of her, she couldn't do anything. The great motherhood made her instinctively protect her offspring. God's differences also made her immobile. She didn't ask for mercy or resist. She didn't do anything. She only hoped that her body would be able to do it. Protect your child, even if it is destroyed. If he comes because of her, he should go for him. She closed her eyes tightly. The imaginable pain did not appear, but a tall body appeared with it. Crook, little baby, your great sage can't save you. You scold him 3 words, how can the old man save you? I don't know why this voice made the woman full of courage again. She opened her eyes, and the man in front of her was holding 2 huge hammers in both hands. His appearance was very beautiful. A hint of childishness. She just wanted to raise her head to speak, but in the blink of an eye, the man had already trampled the angel under her feet and said bitterly, I will wait for 36 days to find that gleam of life for the world. You Western bird people, how dare you treat my ancestral land do something like this? He raised the sledgehammer high and was about to smash it, but saw the woman covering the little boy's eyes. He sighed and kicked the angel who knew nothing about life or death. It's safe here. Girl baby, take this baby to find your army. What is the People's Liberation Army? Although it is immortal, it is considered a bloody man. The sledgehammer in the man's hand disappeared out of thin air, and he stretched out his hand. Both mother and son said, next, leave it to us. As soon as the man got up and floated in the air, the little boy broke free from his mother's arms and shouted to him, Are you sent by the great sage to save us? Bah, even the dead monkey dare. A monkey face suddenly flashed in the man's mind, looking at him jokingly, and he unconsciously made a cold war without speaking. He turned and flew away and the sound was passed away. I am the giant spirit god Qin Heitao, who has transformed Pengsu into the human race guardian god. He opened the mountain thoroughly and established the human race's foundation. I can't beat the little baby monkey, but the old man is also a great god ha 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 ha. I wrote it down. Qin Heitao, the giant spirit god, I wrote it down and I said that the great sage will come to save us. The little boy stood there. His mother was crying into tears beside me, and there are gods in the east, and the gods are still there. Qin Heitao stood in the clouds, his feet were in ruins, countless people were crying, and his eyes were stained with blood. He used to live in the world for Peng Zhu. These children are like his descendants. He looks at the west endlessly. Sickness surged over him. Western false gods, let the old man make a good way for your world. Chapter 66. Advertisement. It seems that progress is still going well. If this speed continues, it won't be long before it's time to harvest. Ryuichi has a faint smile on his face, like a harmless boy next door. Behind him, two black and white figures appeared faintly. On that day, after Ryuichi untied the Dispatch of Detained Spirits, the curse recovered by him was like Hyaki Yako, all over Tokyo. And all of them were branded by the dragon moment. Curse's instinct is to devour humans, the lower the curse, the weaker the self-awareness. But after being restrained by Ryuichi, Curse will subconsciously obey Ryuichi's designation and regard it as the meaning of his own existence. In order to quickly give birth to a super-cursed spirit, Ryuichi must let a deep-rooted nightmare invade the world of the entire Tokyo people, so as to completely detonate the fear of hundreds of millions of people. Only the negative emotions under that intensity can accumulate enough energy to derive special grades. It is easy to detonate a person's emotions, but it is simply difficult to detonate the emotions of hundreds of millions of people. However, Ryuichi thought of the simplest way. Die. No matter the indifferent passerby, the cruel villain, or the atheist, as long as they are still human, they will not escape from the first law of life, that is, alive. For living things, only living can continue to have everything, and the fear of death is also deeply engraved in human DNA, an indelible shadow. Ryuichi is great, concocting a strange story of killing, to slaughter sentient beings regardless. However, as proud as him, disdainful. A curse formed by death is almost difficult to be born, and even if it is born, it may not reach the super class. Therefore, under Ryuichi's deliberate guidance, he released hundreds of curse, and began to curse people all over Tokyo. Erasing it, and at the same time creating an image of black and white impermanence, guiding the direction of the strange story. Advertisement. The messenger of death, the ecstatic undead, the believer of the abyss. The body of the person who committed the sin will be marked by the curse formed by various curses. The death and resentment of such people will gather a large number of curses, hunting such people on a large scale, and at the same time expanding the scope of the strange talk. The whole Tokyo area. Ryuichi's plan has almost completed half of the progress. Behind him, the looming black and white ambassador, officially the results of this period. Take the endless terror of the criminal as the skeleton, and the fear of misfortune and death of all living beings as the soul. The super-imaginary cursed spirit, the prototype of black and white impermanence has emerged. Not enough, we need a scene, a big scene with the whole Tokyo as the stage. Base. Suddenly a small teeny head flew towards Ryuichi at a very fast speed. Slowly fell on Ryuichi's shoulder. A yellowed envelope slipped off. His eyes ran across the content of the letter at random, and the pair of eyes that looked like a bright moon suddenly burst into light. The stage has been set up. The teeny who had delivered the news disappeared out of thin air, and the curse power collapsed. The handwriting on the yellowed paper is a bit mottled, but the four large characters can be vaguely read. Contest in front of the imperial court. In the autumn wind, the envelope fell to the ground. Turned to ashes in an instant. ... As Ryuichi's final decision to play for Tokyo Academy. Above the Zenin's pavilion. Advertisement. 4 or 5 old figures showed different heights under the lights. It was clear that it was daylight outside, but in the courtyard of Zenin's house, it did seem to be enveloped by endless nights, or, in other words, surrounded by layers of black shadows. Seeking flowers. The contemporary owner of the Zenin family, Zenin Niobe, picked up the jug and took a sip. Yes, that kid, what a day student has become. So, your original plan was to fart. Use Guyu in exchange for his return. Haha, how do you explain like the patriarch of the past? You can be convicted of Zenin Japi. A tall figure yelled at Zenin Niobe. However, there was a bit of disdain at the corner of Zebiran's mouth. He raised his head and looked at the tall figure with a look of idiot. Old silly, no matter where the kid goes, he is the blood of my Zenin family. You have such a brain, no wonder, your generation was severely suppressed by the Gojo family, it deserves it. You. B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** voice was strangely angry. Okay. Niobe is the head of this generation, and all decisions of this generation are in the hands of him. Don't forget, this is Zenin's rule. On the high platform, an indifferent voice sounded, ending the meaningless quarrel. Seeing that he didn't care, Zenin Niobe, the voice sounded again. You said that Zenin Ryuichi has the potential to rival Gojo Satoru, but we haven't seen it before, so for the honor of the family, it's time for the Zenins, beast, to come out. Whatever you do, whatever you want. Zenin Niobe shook the wine gourd in his hand casually, placing one hand on his chest, looking like a drunkard, swaying towards the door. In the shadow that no one could see, there was a sneer that no one had seen before. Old guys, have you really seen Invincible? 2. Chapter 67. Advertisement. You guy, are you really going to take part in the royal contest? Shire held a cigarette in his mouth, did not light it, and looked at Ryuichi on the sofa with disdain. No way. Bakai Chong Guyu, I have to get it. Ryuichi lay lazily on the sofa. It is clear that the people in the major families have already gone to the test site early in order to show their faces in this grand event, which is 100 years later, but this guy is still wearing pajamas. A look not awake. Cut. Whatever you want, but the royal contest, life or death, if you die, this house of everything will be mine, and we have made a lot of money recently because of that black and white weird talk. Cher took a large stack of banknotes in the drawer and slapped it a few times. Single quote, single quote. As everyone knows, the so-called black and white impermanence is just a ghost made by the nominal boss in front of him. 380. Dead. Haha, that will disappoint you. Do you want to make a bet? Shabi, I just made a bet with you, has I won once in such a long time? Shire rolled his eyes. It has been a few months since I lost to Ryuichi. She has always been addicted to gambling. He often gambled against Ryuichi, but never won once, the worst one, but was stripping away all his clothes. Shans ran streaking around. From then on, Shire vowed that he would never bet against this pervert again. Ryuichi stretched out a big lazy waist, and the orchid bloomed all over his body, and the magical machine burst out a strong light, the next second. Ryuichi has been neatly dressed, the highest masterpiece of dignified nerves, and it has become a tool for wearing clothes. It's really clear that I'm in a hurry. Why do bugs come to my door at this time? Ryuichi looked out the door, with a bit of dissatisfaction and complaining, like a teenager who was bored because the breakfast was not good. But the whole body did exude a burst of frightening power. Shire's playful glance at the door, opened a can of beer, and put on a look of watching a play. Boss, the little warm-up before the game, do you like it? Bang. Just as Ryuichi was about to speak, suddenly, the precious wooden door of the room suddenly exploded, and a figure resembling a cheetah plunged directly on Ryuichi. The long knife in his hand has an amazing aura. The target reaches to Ryuichi's head. Facing the sudden attack, Ryuichi stood there unhurriedly, looking at the big flying wooden door, frowning slightly. Go to hell, liar. Advertisement. The black shadow roared, condensing the strength of his whole body on this point, asking for a blow. But, click. Ryuichi's two fingers lifted quickly, and the moment the blade was about to touch him, the two fingers clamped the blade tightly, no matter how hard the shadow could not pull the blade out of Ryuichi's hand. My door is hard to buy. Ryuichi's voice was a little bit angry. A hint of redness appeared in the pair of eyes that looked like a bright moon. Black Shadow felt a little bit bad in her heart. He withdrew directly with both hands, abandoning the knife, and his figure instantly retreated a few steps. Quickly seal with both hands. Waves appeared in the shadow under his feet, as if some monster was about to emerge from the ground. Zenin Ryuichi. Do you remember me? My brother died in your hands. Because of you, my qualifications for the competition were replaced by an inexplicable guy. Everything about me was messed up by you. You actually want to participate in the imperial examinations, why are you? You have been a trash since you were young. You lied to everyone, you can't lie to me. What's the use of a strong body, Jujutsu teacher? Without Jujutsu you would be a rubbish. This roaring man is Ying Yi, and now his whole body is exuding a terrifying black mist, and in the shadow under his feet, ripples continue to appear, his eyes are blood red, as if he has not slept for several days. Are you? Ryuichi, looking at this man with a puzzled face, had no impression of him at all. You don't know who I am. Ha 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 ha, it is not important, you just need to know that I am the one who killed you. Ying Yi smiled back in anger, and the shadow under her feet floated quickly. Whoa, bang. With a roar, a huge black cheetah rushed out of the shadows, with unmatched power, roaring towards Ryuichi. 10 shadow techniques. The black cheetah arrived in no time, waving his sharp claws, intending to tear Ryuichi's body into two halves. But Ryuichi's is like a feather, under the terrifying claws, it flickers and moves, with a bit of joke between his behavior. The brow frowned slightly, as if thinking about the other party's abilities. Advertisement. Shit. 10 shadows. What's so great about Zenin's 10 shadows? Tell you, Lao Tzu's technique is called shadow transformation. It can fabricate all-powerful beasts and increase his strength. At the same time, the shadow is indestructible, so go to death. Ying Yi screamed madly, dancing like a sick lunatic. The shadow is immortal. His words seemed to arouse Ryuichi's interest, and a trademark smile appeared on the corner of Ryuichi's mouth. The body shape instantly stopped flashing. Stopped in place, motionless. The Black Panther's huge claws, with terrifying wind pressure, severely grabbed Ryuichi's face. Titicaca. That strength was so strong that only relying on wind pressure, it tore the floor into cracks. Idiot. Go to hell. Keigaiki laughed wildly, as if he had seen Ryuichi splashing blood on the spot. The smug on his face can't hide it anyway. But the next moment, his smile seemed to freeze, and a trace of terror began to appear in his crazy eyes. Then, endless fear was like a tide, which did not flow from the depths of his heart, almost completely swallowing his mind. He saw. Ryuichi shook his fist high, and that fist carried the power of subverting the world. The moment it broke out, The Black Panther that he had traded with the devil collapsed in an instant. Impossible, impossible, impossible. Ying Yi sat on the ground in horror. Don't look at me with that look. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Keigaiki looked at Ryuichi, with that disdainful look, hugging his head like crazy. But suddenly countless figures appeared in all directions, staring at Ying Yi with deep contempt. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Ah ah. His sorrows echoed continuously in the room. What's wrong with this guy? Shi-er looked at Ying Yi, who was talking to himself like a lunatic after he rushed in, scratching his head in confusion. Ryuichi didn't even look at the guy, and waved his palm casually. Click. In an instant, Ying Yi fell to the ground, and the black mist filled his whole body, swallowing his body in an instant. Chapter 68. Advertisement. This is from that day. Shi-er felt the familiar power, what he had officially possessed on the body of truth that day. Don't worry, wait until I'm done, play with you. Ryuichi's tone was cold and cold like an iceberg that has never changed. No matter what that thing is, his actions have completely touched Ryuichi's bottom line. Except for annihilation, Ryuichi doesn't need any explanation from the other party. His figure quickly left the room, and even after drinking all the beer in his hand, he stood up thoughtfully, turned and left. In this world, it has always been so unfair. Keigaiki did not hesitate to exhaust everything and made a deal with the devil, in exchange for the mighty power, but in the end, Ryuichi didn't even show his hands. Let this guy sink into the illusion of semi-finished impermanence. Until his death, his name was never remembered by Ryuichi. Perhaps even in the end, he didn't figure out one thing. The dignity and respect that he wholeheartedly wanted was built on a basis, that is strength. The strong talk about dignity, the weak only seek survival. He miscalculated the position between him and Ryuichi, so there is only one waiting for him. Outside the window, a dark crow flew over the house of everything. In its eyes, there seemed to be a man's soul, roaring in anger. Tokyo Academy. In the always calm back mountain, now the flow of people is surging, and all the elite talents from the major families have gathered here. 100-year-old imperial contest is taking place. This made the family, who valued honor more than anything else, desperately came to Tokyo Academy. Even a small number of families who don't care about these, in order not to be left behind by the future Jujutsu world, they bit their heads and rushed here. Behind the mountain is a broad virgin forest. 5 high platforms appeared out of thin air. It was in the hearts of all Jujutsu teachers. Although there was not the slightest wave of curse power on it, there was no family mark. But, all the families and Jujutsu teachers present know that it is the unattainable sky that is pressed on the entire Jujutsu world. Advertisement. Zenin, Gojo, Kamo, Jujutsu Association. Jujutsu Academy Tokyo and Kyoto Union. These 5 forces almost control all the resources in the entire Jujutsu world. No matter who they are, as long as they can enter the 5 branches, it means that one day they will go to the fixed point of Jujutsu world. Under the backward system of the recommendation system, these 5 forces can almost decide everything in the Jujutsu world. What a strong sense of oppression. Is this the difference in strength? Damn it. Is it true that this royal match will eventually become an infighting of big 3 sorcerer families? There is a lot of discussion from various families, and it is calculated from the last match with the prince hundreds of years ago. No matter that prince's trial, without exception, the Jujutsu master of big 3 sorcerer families dominates everything. Whether it is the curse, under their powerful blood heritage, they are so unbearable. Looking at these 5 high platforms, suddenly bursts of terrifying curse power continued to condense in the air. In an instant, everyone present stopped talking, and their attention was all attracted by the powerful curse power. Ahem, an old voice rang slowly. He seemed to be satisfied with the shocked attitude of the crowd, and his tone was somewhat unspeakable with majesty. After thousands of years, the Jujutsu industry is competing in front of the royal palace. The purpose of this competition is to inspire the younger generation. For this reason, big 3 sorcerer families, the association and the academy will each produce a special cursed tool or cursed object. Awarded to the 5 juniors who won in the end. The game is divided into 3 rounds. The first round, the battle of exclusion, we will put in the forest. The old voice kept announcing the rules of the game. Yaga Masamiki anxiously awaits Ryuichi's arrival. Obviously, he used the oldest invitation method to entertain ghosts. But the guy Ryuichi hasn't arrived yet, and the Empire contest is about to begin. Damn it. Sure enough, are all of Gojo Satoru's friends as frivolous as him? Masamiki murmured wildly in his heart. Because of Ryuichi's reasons, Masamiki discussed with the principal that in order to prevent a situation where he had to fight between his own people, the academy, which was originally desperate, did not send other members, so if Ryuichi does not come, then Tokyo Academy equivalent to abstention. Advertisement. Thinking that if he abstained, he would have to see the old and scornful look of Kyoto, Masamiki's heart could not be suppressed. Leaning on a big tree far away, Gojo was sleepy, looking at Yaga Masamiki, not knowing why he always felt that his teacher was scolding himself in his heart. Feeling strange for a while, He shook his head and threw his mixed thoughts away, looking at the group of chirping guys at his feet. Gojo Satoru let out a bored breath. In his opinion, this competition is simply no fun at all. If he wanted to, he could even kill all the underground guys alone. When facing the tiger and leopard, the dragon might still stretch out his claws to joking, but facing the ants, he really has no desire to make a move. If it wasn't because of his grandfather, who had already suffered from the Q**** test, Gojo would definitely not come to this boring place. Boring. Yo, you came early. Suddenly a familiar voice rang in Gojo Satoru's ear, and the thick tree trunk trembled slightly. Gojo, who was originally drowsy, suddenly burst into light in his eyes, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously brought up a smile. The clothes on his body had no wind, and the powerful curse power instantly appeared on the real stadium. So this. In the Kamo's high platform, the old man was interrupted by Gojo Satoru's powerful curse before he could finish his words. As soon as that force appeared, it swept the entire arena like a hurricane. Everything around it seemed to become quiet. Only the rapid breathing of everyone was left. This kind of curse power really should have at this age. Suddenly this question arose in everyone's mind. You are late, Ryuichi. With a smile on his face, Gojo Satoru still looked as frivolous as usual, as if nothing in this world could make him serious. But anyone who knows him knows that Gojo Satoru now has explosive strength in every muscle in his body. The curse power on his body is like a huge wave, constantly surging, endless. Yaga Masamiki looked at the tree, the two boys who attracted everyone's eyes as soon as they appeared, couldn't help sighing in his heart. It's the first time I saw Xiao Wu being so serious. Chapter 69. Advertisement. Ryuichi leaned against the ancient tree, facing Gojo Satoru who exuded such an amazing aura, lazily waved his hand and said. No way, a dog came in. It looks like it's a dog raised by Zenin. It's a mess. Oh, that really affects the mood. Yeah, but it doesn't matter, the dog is already quiet. Ryuichi gave a meaningful smile and took a deep look at the high platform that represented Zenin's home. Hey, are you two juniors too unreasonable? The old man in Kamo's family felt that he had been ignored, and yelled angrily, diverting everyone's attention. At this moment, Ryuichi straightened up suddenly and took a serious look at the people on the ground. A lot of people, it feels very troublesome. Do you think so too? 3 rounds of competitions are too troublesome. Otherwise, let's get rid of everyone, and then how about the comparison? Gojo Satoru twisted his shoulders, and his whole body made a sound like popping beans. What he said made everyone in an uproar. Damn, Gojo Satoru, even if you are strong, you can't stop putting us in your eyes. Interesting. Who do you think you are? Down with everyone, even the Gojo Patriarch is not as rampant as you. Come on, I'll kill you. Everyone in the younger generation is full of blood, how can they endure Gojo Satoru's almost naked ridicule? It's all incomparable anger. They glared at the two above the tree. But Gojo Satoru is the next patriarch of big 3 sorcerer families after all, and they are dissatisfied and dare not say too much. So the face that almost no one had seen on the side became a target of public criticism. Smelly boy, really thought that the thighs of Gojo's family were so rampant. Come down, and Grandpa Rukawa will screw your head off. FK, I can't bear it anymore. All cats and dogs are doing the best here. Don't talk about knocking everyone down, just try with me. The anger of everyone was instantly concentrated on Ryuichi, as if he vented with the spiteful language that could not be vented on Gojo Satoru. The Jujutsu teacher has been with curse all the year round. Although he can restrain himself, his heart is filled with deep hostility. Under such a grand meeting, he was provoked so much, and almost all hostility was exploded. Advertisement. All kinds of foul language are endless. They didn't dare to take the risk of being disqualified from the game and attack Ryuichi, but they didn't spend any money on their mouths. Listening to these unbearable curses, a smile appeared at the corner of Ryuichi's mouth. The smile was warm and radiant, and matched with his handsome appearance, it was as dazzling as the beautiful man walking out of the painting, but Gojo, who knew his friends very well, knew that Ryuichi was moved. I heard that the Empire will compete for life or death, right? As the voice fell, the temperature of the entire virgin forest dropped suddenly. In an instant, a terrible aura radiated from Ryuichi's body. At that moment, it was like, Nether is here. Resurrection of Sun Luo. The killing intent erupted from Zenin Ryuichi, like a huge wave, instantly covering the entire arena. Those noisy sounds stopped abruptly. Everything in the world is as if the pause button has been pressed. Everyone's muscles tightened at the same time. From Jujutsu's intuition, he told them that at this moment, the momentum of the unknown man in front of him was enough to kill them. Every Jujutsu teacher sent here by the family is an elite role that has experienced thousands of tempers. Between life and death, there is great fear. For an instant, they were all ready to fight, and even they themselves didn't notice a little bit. Their bodies, starting from the moment Ryuichi straightened up, moved closer together unconsciously. Cattle and sheep flock, tigers and leopards walk alone. In the subconscious, everything has already been exposed, and their bodies subconsciously feel fear, which is a kind of panic when facing natural enemies, which makes them completely unconsciously move their bodies closer to seek some comfort. He doesn't dare to do it. No matter who he is, if he does it, he will be disqualified. The big guy who mocked Ryuichi at first thought to himself that his body was slightly hidden in the crowd. What are you doing? On the high platform of Kamo's house, an old man with a dark face yelled dissatisfiedly. Advertisement. On the side, on the high platform of the Zenin family next to him, a short old man also slowly walked out and looked at Kamo's house with a smile, without the arrogance of the Zenin family. Haha, don't be so angry. It's the age of young people. The young people are right. Our old guys will be laughed out of their teeth if they point out here. The short old man suppressed the black-faced old man's imposing manner. Although the words are kind, the sound of meeting each other in the words is endless. Diaresis, you old fellow. Don't forget, if I didn't have Kamos back then. We have always remembered the great grace of that generation of Kamo patriarch. The old man's tone bit the word great in very hard. His smiling expression remained the same, but the light that came out of his almost narrowed eyes made it impossible for anyone to ignore it. Just when the atmosphere of the two houses fell into a very strange situation. Base. I saw that Ryuichi's figure instantly disappeared under the tree trunk, and the speed was so fast that it left an afterimage in the air. Base. Crunch. So fast. My eyes can't keep up with the speed of this guy. Who the hell is he? At first, Rukawa, who shouted to tear Ryuichi to pieces, quickly searched for Ryuichi's good money figure group. Although he bet the opponent would not dare to do anything, but with such a terrifying speed, once he waited for a thorough battle, it would be difficult for him to face such a speed-type enemy. Just when he fell into thinking. In his ear, a faint voice sounded without the slightest emotion. You said, you want to rip off my head. The sound was like the scream of the nether Rakshasa and the babble of a hell demon. Rukawa felt that the hairs on his whole body were standing upright, cold sweat gushing out instantly, and a chill from the soles of his feet hit the sky. The gloomy and cold feeling, in an instant, seemed to freeze the blood all over his body. Curse body control. Rukawa yelled in horror. Starting from the corner of his eye, countless curse powers appeared on his body like tattoos, constantly drawing out strange patterns. With the appearance of the tattoo, Rukawa's momentum became more and more powerful. Chapter 70. Advertisement. Rukawa used his feet in vain. Bang. Quickly moved away from the place, turned around abruptly, looking at Ryuichi with his hands in his pockets, a trace of extremely imperceptible fear slipped through his eyes. Haha, boy, who are you bluffing? Do you dare to do it? If you do it now, you will be cancelled the rules of the game. I advise you to think about it. For your family, you also want to think clearly. Rukawa yelled, trying to suppress Ryuichi by using the prince's contest. But this time his wishful thinking is indeed empty. At the corner of Ryuichi's mouth, his trademark smile appeared, and Rukawa's figure was reflected in the moon-white eyes. My Rukawa family's curse and body control technique is very strong. You don't want to be an enemy of me. The voice did not fall. Ryuichi's figure was already like a ghost, and he appeared in front of Rukawa again in an instant. Have you been torn apart? Rukawa's eyes shrank suddenly when he heard Ryuichi's words, and an astonishing hostility broke out all over his body. After retreating in front of everyone, Rukawa finally lost his reason under the double interference of fear and dignity. Go to NMD. He suddenly raised his fist, with a strong curse, and slammed down Ryuichi's head fiercely. The tyrannical force seemed to evacuate the surrounding air. Boom rumbling. The heavy punch was accompanied by a thunderous muffled sound, like a beast, with endless madness, with the intention of directly blasting Ryuichi's head. Ryuichi stood there, looking at the growing fist, and raised a finger unhurriedly. Rumble. Bang. The tyrannical forces collided together in an instant, and the aftermath of the forces blasted the dust. Everyone looked curiously at the two figures in the smoke. They stretched their necks and looked inside. Ah, this. Is he a monster? Is it the second Zenin Shire? Cheat. Cheat. The Jujutsu of Rukawa family can mix the curse power into the flesh, and it will double the increase. How is it possible? The smoke cleared. The figures of the two gradually emerged. Rukawa gritted his teeth, the blue veins all over his body violently, bean-sized sweat fell from his head, his body trembled uncontrollably, his lips turned pale, and deep fear in his eyes. Advertisement. He condensed his whole body strength and made an angry punch. Stopped on Ryuichi's middle finger. That finger is like the Optimus pillar, unmoved, letting the world go. As for Rushuan's sandbag-sized fist, at this moment, the roots of his fingers were broken, blood flowed across, the joints fluttered, and the split-bone spurs even penetrated his skin. Guru. I don't know who it is, I swallowed saliva first. Afterwards, everyone swallowed unconsciously. Rukawa can break mountains and rivers with heavy punches. This legend has been passed down in jujutsu circles for thousands of years. Now under a finger. Legend. Destroyed. Ryuichi glanced indifferently. Rukawa, who was desperate in front of him, slowly raised his fingers. The tyrannical force squeezed in a bit. The old man Kamo on the high platform changed his face. The game hasn't started yet. What are you going to do? The game has started. But as soon as his voice fell, the old Zenin family beside him quickly added a sentence. Base. A bloody color was like tears in the sky. No one could see what Ryuichi had done. They only knew that the finger was like a sickle of the god of death, and instantly cut Rukawa's neck. Click. Gululu. The huge head fell to the ground, and a cloud of dust appeared. He killed Rukawa. He killed Rukawa. FK. The game has started. Let's kill the murderer together. Come on. Rukawa's death stimulated all the jujutsu teachers present. They screamed and glared at Ryuichi as powerful spells continued to emerge. Ryuichi was alone, standing straight, looking at these guys with extreme killing intent on the opposite side. The smile on the corners of his mouth seemed to be a little brighter. Base. Gojo Satoru's figure instantly appeared beside Ryuichi, and the two teenagers stood side by side, like two high mountains. It instantly fell on the hearts of all the younger generations present. Don't you find it bothersome? You have to wash your clothes if you kill someone and dirty your clothes. Gojo Satoru bumped Ryuichi with his shoulder, jokingly. Advertisement: he is different from Ryuichi. Gojo Satoru rarely kills. Except for Cursed Spirit, he rarely kills even Curse Master, but he is not a secular person, nor a stubborn generation. Rukawa's punch against Ryuichi was obviously murderous, and he was clearly rushing to kill Ryuichi. So even if he was killed, he should have nothing to say. I hate trouble. Ryuichi's voice became more and more cold, like Shira in hell, with a strong murderous intent. But I hate to be in trouble all the time. The voice fell. In his moon-white eyes, a bright red appeared quickly, cursing power surged all over his body, and the smile at the corners of his mouth gradually disappeared. Useless force under your feet. Alone, went straight to the hundreds of family elites. Behind him, Gojo Satoru smiled slightly, and his figure instantly followed Ryuichi. Two figures, one black and one white, walk side by side. Instantly rushed into the crowd too. There are more people down than anyone. Gojo Satoru waved his left hand, and the powerful thrust exploded, and the crowd around him was instantly knocked into the sky. On Ryuichi's side, a gloomy light appeared all over his body, and countless flying knives appeared out of thin air, flying up and down like dancing butterflies. Those who lose, please treat to dinner, Ryuichi's voice sounded calmly. Ha ha ha, good. Gojo Satoru laughed. Ryuichi and Gojo Satoru are not on the same level as Ryuichi and Gojo Satoru. Ryuichi didn't even use the power of Dispatch of Detained Spirits, relying only on his body and divine armament 100 refinements, he defeated this group of guys. Explosion. A man in black suddenly yelled into Ryuichi's ear. However, Ryuichi was unharmed. The man in black coughed violently, a gush of blood poured out, and he fell to the ground feebly. Ryuichi glanced at him coldly. Then he punched behind him, directly blasting the chest of a guy who was trying to sneak attack. His whole body was stained with blood, but no blood stains belonged to him. The figure like a god and demon was deeply reflected in everyone's mind. After a while, the entire battlefield was left with only two people, Gojo Satoru and Zenin Ryuichi. By the side of Gojo Satoru, everyone fell into a coma, and the crowd fell to the ground indiscriminately. Behind Ryuichi, those who were defeated by him were thrown into a high mountain of people, and the whole ground was stained with blood. This scene seemed to drag everything into hell. He is in the abyss, condescending, looking down on sentient beings, as if a god or a demon is alive, and like the lord of the netherworld. The hearts of everyone watching the battle couldn't help but tremble.